You are muted, Jacob. Just to
Hello,
let you know.
hello.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hello. I forgot I was muted. Oops.
It's like, huh?
Glad when the younger folks boomer makes me feel better about myself. Appreciate it, Jacob. Thank you,
that
man.
happened. That's been happening to me a lot lately for some reason.
It happens to everybody.
It's the raccoons, man.
Yeah, those raccoons. So I hope everybody's having a good evening. Thanks to the people in the chat for coming by and hanging while we talk about this great movie. How are you doing, Shieldwall?
I'm doing good. Thanks for inviting me on. I watched this movie today. It's a great movie. I think it is very relevant for our current times. Some of the through lines of the plot and the way that the kind of movie plays out. And then, I got thoughts about it cinematically and story wise and whatever. But thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah. And welcome back, Pops.
Oh, it's great to be back, bro. Sorry I can't come more often. It's just a scheduling thing. And I know I had to put you off a week one time, but I'm doing this. And I'm glad I did because this is a really great movie to kind of revisit because I had not watched this in like forever and a day. My first thought was I've never seen it. And then I think we were talking before like Untamed. It's like, I haven't seen this. And I kind of remember seeing this when I was a kid. I'm like, yeah, me too. That's probably what my grandfather had this on. I was probably watching it and probably shouldn't have been watching it. And it's like, oh, wait, I remember this. And I remember it's like Anthony Quinn just stuck with me as a kid. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this guy. I remember that. He just, yep. So couldn't agree more with what Shieldwall said. Tons and tons of sort of like eternal story arcs and moral lessons and things that we can kind of grab a hold of. And again, I think we did 12 Angry Men together, Jacob, and it's like another one of these incredible films. Henry Fonda is also in it, but also just like you didn't need a lot of money to make this film. This is like a couple set pieces, a few interesting dynamics, a lot of people standing around. It's not like it's, required a lot of action and yeah, good stuff. Thank you. Thanks for doing this, man. It's going to be awesome.
Yep. And Mando, hello.
It is I have returned. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah.
I know I've also had a busy schedule and stuff, but I'm glad that I was able to make it. Yeah, I think I probably about the same circumstances as you, Pops. My grandma was probably watching TV Land and this was on, and I used to watch TV Land with her all the time. I'd just sit there, I'd just see the guns and the horses and go, I want horses now.
Yeah, you're right.
It's probably where my love of horses and guns came from, I think. So it was fun to just watching. I was like, wait, I've seen this movie before and it's not a John Wayne movie. What?
For all of you in chat, yes, I'm old enough to have been watching this before TV Land even existed. So I don't want to hear it out of you, chat. I know. Yes, I'm old. It's okay. Go ahead, Jacob.
I can remember sitting on a stool pretending I was riding a horse watching cowboy movies. So yeah, they were a fun part of me growing up. So
that was yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I'm about the same age as Pops. I remember that it was nonstop wall-to-wall westerns on TV reruns. It was just
John Wayne.
Well, whatever, TV shows, Bonanza, Have Gun, Will Travel.
Yeah, it's just
all that stuff.
There's sort of a UHF channel that pretty much just played westerns. If it wasn't westerns, it was war movies, and that's pretty much what like 90% of that channel, whatever that channel is. I don't even know which channel to lay that badge of honor around. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I remember Shieldwall. We'd go to stores and they would have the guns in the toy section. And sometimes people who weren't supposed to, I'm not going to say or admit that I ever did this. You would open these rolls of caps and you'd put them right in the cap gun in the middle of the store, or you'd find the yellow BBs and throw them in the yellow BB gun. And you would run through the store. You'd hide in like the clothing department, whatever. You'd get in trouble sometimes, but you would never get kicked out of the store for some reason. And so playtime started chopping. It was we're there.
And this is before they had all these red and orange tips on guns and stuff.
No.
So you would get them, and some of them, if you paid enough, looked pretty real. But yeah, they had the little roll. It was like a red paper with little dots of the popper stuff in it. And you just put it in the gun. They also had ones that were plastic, They had
Yes.
they were all connected, and they had each individual one, and then you would cycle through the cylinder, like you actually put it in the cylinder.
Yeah, I had one of those growing up.
and it
Yeah.
would pop, and then you dump dump the little plastic thing and put another one in. And yeah, it was a good time. That was back when you got that and a pack of candy smokes at the same time.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was never for some reason allowed to get the candy smokes. My grandma was an avid
So
smoker, and she's like, I'm not going to let you start this habit. I was like, but grandma, it's so cool and you do it. No.
We would just pretend then. If they told us no, or we used them all up, we would just find something else to roll up so we could be as cool as whatever cowboy we were trying to emulate.
Mhm.
You wanted to
I
know which
just
one
use
to be
the
the cowboy.
suckers.
Yeah, you'd find the sucker stick, right? Use the suckers. Yeah, you'd find something. So
Yeah.
yes.
I remember I had a one that shot rubber bands.
Yeah,
could
you know
load a
what?
bunch of
That's a good
rubber bands on
reference.
it and-
Yep. Mhm.
It's
I
fun.
think I had. Did I have one? I think I had like a handmade one that had like a clothesline clip on it, and I
Yeah.
just put the rubber band and then.
That's what I was gonna say. It's made like the handle is just a wooden kind of shape of a gun, roughly. And
Yep.
yep, and you load it up that way. Yeah, those was a different time. It sure was.
Yeah.
But yeah, the message that this movie is putting out is actually, I think it's even more prevalent or important today than it might have been in the last couple of decades, with just the way things, especially in America, the way things are going in our country, and
The way people think that a democracy is better than a republic, kind of thing. Like,
well, it's more of, in some places you go, it is literally the Wild West now. Literally.
Yeah.
The ways that things are being handled by, how law is being prosecuted. And this is my thinking, if we're not careful, it's easy to slip into this kind of thing, because people will do this naturally. If law is not being handled, they'll start handling it themselves because they won't have any other choice to do it. So, and
I also think just the idea of that slippery slope towards like mob mentality, right? Guilty before proven innocent. There was such a one of the heavy themes was, the one guy kept saying, well, if you just go and verify this, if you just go look into this detail, you'll realize I'm telling the truth. Like, and just, there was no desire to fact check. There was no desire to verify. And just, I think when we talk about today's culture with, everyone's guilty first and no one wants to fact check anything. And then whatever my truth matters, which is one of the most craziest narcissistic things that could possibly ever exist, is that you have a truth. It's just crazy to me. So I love this movie. It was really, really deep.
Absolutely, because you're already seeing that mentality in online. It's already online, where people just shoot a tweet out, nobody will verify it, they'll take it at face value and then run with it. But then again, with the way things are online now, you don't really know what's real and what's not either anymore. Like, literally, it could be photoshopped or who knows what. So
right, with AI technology that we have like now, deep fakes are a thing. It is hard to sometimes tell fiction from reality. But also, like, what happens when my truth is different from your truth, and my truth says, if you don't believe what I believe, I have the right to yeet you off this earth.
Well,
like,
you're a bigot. That just means you're a bigot.
But that's what law and the due process of law is for, to prevent that from happening. So, everybody will see this when we get into the movie, and why it's important.
Yeah, it's the cancel movement too. You'll hear people, oh, this person did this, and everybody just gangs up on that person, and destroys their livelihood. And
turns out that they were innocent.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp.
So first, I think we'll play the trailer real quick and talk about that. Share screen.
Have you had any hard time with copyright stuff, Jacob? You doing okay with that?
I had one, or no, I had two, but they were just warnings. They weren't strikes or anything.
You need to have like 200 like I have.
Oh, well, we should talk offline and give you some pointers on how to deal with that, because there's an option of like how to deal with it. You can trim it out, and what you can do is on your StreamYard, make yourself an overlay. So at least you have an overlay. Don't play the audio, play your, put an overlay over it, things like that. It just makes it a lot easier for them to not flag. They'll still flag stuff. I'm not saying it won't happen,
Right.
but in Untamed, we got to deal with your 200. We should talk because we can't let that pile up.
I finally just don't care. Like I have an intro on my Saturday morning show that's got like Lord of the Rings. Like I've chopped it up into pieces and like stitched it back together for an intro. And every single time they're like, you can't be playing Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. I'm like, I'm not. We've got 1 minute of chopped up stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They don't like that. Yeah. Yeah.
You see it as badge of honor now.
Hey, listen, you gotta do what you gotta do. All right.
Let me know if y'all can hear this. So we'll go ahead and
I am not getting any sound.
I don't have any audio, but I'm okay with there not being audio. It's like I just love the fact that he had to have recorded this before he went into the Navy. Like he had to have just like done this first. Like I think that's great. That's actually really, really cool. And he pulls the book off the shelf. That's the boss move, man. Talk about, expecting our kids to be smart. Like that would be so cool to open a movie now where you just pull the book off the shelf and just start talking about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They filmed this entire movie between June and the end of August in 1 year.
60 days.
Yep.
Wow.
That's with reshoots and everything. Actually, the primary shooting was like a month.
Wow. I think it's just great that you have someone of his star caliber. Like this is the equivalent of, Henry Fonda is basically the equivalent of, the Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt character, level of celebrity doing a film like this.
Looking at him, look how he's shaven and haircut. I bet he came back maybe right before he went into the Navy, or he might have gotten permission to come do this or something, like a quick furlough kind of thing.
Interesting. I wonder how many days it took to do the ADR, do all the sound, because obviously film on location like this and stuff, their sound is terrible, it's rough, things like that. But I wonder how much is like location and how much is ADR.
So this right here that we're seeing, this is all soundstage. At the time, they built the largest soundstage that they had ever built in Hollywood to accommodate this movie. But they had to keep pausing because there was a limit on materials because of the war. So they had to like tear other stuff down when they were done with it and build the rest of it over in another spot. They had to keep recycling it, basically.
Sounds like Star Wars. I was just listening to the commentary of George, and George was talking about how they would do the hangar base scene right before the Battle of Yavin. And they were like, we only had 2 X-Wings. So they'd shoot a shot and move the 2 X-Wings, shoot a shot, move the 2 X-Wings. It's like, oh, that's how you do it.
So that's pretty cool. You don't normally see the actor, talk about the movie, in a trailer.
Right?
Yeah. Nowadays, it's after the trailers come out and then they call everybody racist.
Yep. Or in Top Gun Maverick, like they did that, which was like almost jarring to be like, oh, wait, the actor is talking to us as the audience and telling us to thank you.
Well, I tell you what, he knew what he was doing with that after the pause in movie going, the way that Hollywood and the fans have been interacting with each other for about 2 years by that point. It was something I think really needed to be done. And he had the smarts and the wherewithal and the class and the skill to do it. Because you could tell he really meant it. It wasn't just like he was reading off of a card or something.
If he does that before Mission Impossible, he will be so next level. Like it becomes like a Hitchcockian repeat thing where people expect it. If he were to come out and go, hi, I'm Tom Cruise. I just want to say, I just love coming back and playing Ethan Hunt. This is just a blast. And I know this is part 1 of 2 parts. We have more for you people, but I can't thank you enough for coming out. If he does that again, his movie will make $1 billion, 100%. He may make that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
There's not even going to be a doubt. This movie could just be mediocre and it will still, because people will be like, because when that happened and we were in Maverick, my wife kind of like had her arm around my arm and she kind of gave me a little nudge, and the ladies that were in front of us were like swooning over Tom, and isn't that great? Like it's like, oh my gosh, it was such a good move. And yeah, if he were to do that again for Mission, it like makes it becomes his brand, right? It becomes like a brand move.
Mhm.
The other thing that kind of shot that to prominence in the zeitgeist is the movie was good. It didn't crap on the old characters. It didn't, try to make
Yeah, of
him an
course.
old broken down loser like they do to, they try to do to all these other legacy characters. And it brought back, it had that same feeling that the 80s movie did. And yeah, so I think it was all of that together really kind of spun that whole thing into where it is today as a
Yeah.
good movie.
But the fact that Henry would just pull this book out and just like say, here's this great movie, this great story that's so good. It's almost like telling the audience, I know you may watch this movie, but you should go read
You
this
should
book.
go read the book.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so smart. It's so good.
I remember a lot of older movies doing that, where they would. Disney did it himself. He'd be in his little office before a Disney TV show, and he'd pull the book out, and it'd be like Alice in Wonderland, and he would say, "We all grew up with this book, and it's a great literary classic, and here's my take on it. So I hope you enjoy it, everybody." And he would talk to the audience in his office, and he had all these books, and he had it might have been a set, but when I was a kid, I really thought it was his office, and you felt like Walt Disney was talking to you, and he cared about what that you were entertained, and he cared about what he was doing. Now they're like, look at our stuff, racist.
Well, also, like, he understood, like, he didn't say, well, this is better than the original. He's like, this is my take. This is my version of it. I know it's not the original, and I'm not going to try and shove it down your throat to say, if you don't like mine, you don't like art. I don't know.
Right. This first shot with those two guys coming into town, there's a dog running across the street, and the last shot of the movie, the dog's in there too. It's pretty. It's kind of like interesting how they did that.
Yeah.
Bark.
Yeah,
it was filmed the same day. Let's just be honest.
Yeah,
awesome. I'm glad they did it though.
Yeah,
and because they exit and kind of go the same direction they came in, right? Just like
exactly. It bookends the movie at the shot as it just bookends it that way. It's kind of artistic, I guess.
Here we go. Henry Fonda and Colonel Potter rolling up to the saloon.
Yep.
There he is, Colonel Potter, baby.
Yep. Yeah.
I like what he says here. Why is that guy taking so long to get to her in the painting?
Yeah, I know. He's a little down bad looking at that thing.
I had a hard time looking at Morgan there because he kind of has a little Tim Conway look about him because he's so young and stuff.
Yeah.
See, he's got a little Tim Conway look on his face, kind of like he's just, going to crack jokes and cut up a little bit. Doesn't have that, that weathered Colonel Potter look about him.
Yeah, or he's just a fax man.
Yeah.
They have good chemistry together, though. I would say that they played off each other really smoothly.
Yeah.
I had a hard time, like, kind of, I don't know if it was the era or what, but the way they were talking, I was trying to like, okay, what are they talking about? Who knows each other? And what is their relationship? Like this guy at the end of the bar, I thought he was with these two, like somehow, like they had worked together or whatever. But apparently, because it's like one of those really small town things that nobody does these days, where everybody in the town knows everybody else. That's like a foreign concept to most people. Where you live in a place where you could never know everybody, but here they know absolutely everybody. They know who's married to who. They know all the single women that are in town that are available, like all 5 of them, or whatever. and so everybody kind of knows something about everybody. It's kind of like Twitter, but in a
small scale.
Yeah,
small thing.
Human nature.
When people actually communicated in person. Right.
I love the fact that the whole movie set around the death of a character that we don't ever see. Like
Yeah.
it's just, it's like I don't know. There's just so much brilliance in subtlety in a film like this that as you get older and more mature and you get a whole lot of other films under your belt and appreciation, you go, oh man, this is the way you do it. This is how that master class is built. You watch films like this.
So what's happening here in this scene is they come into town. They've been out of town for a couple of months, messing around with cattle and stuff. They come in, they get their drinks. Then these other guys come in, and they're kind of in the same business. But Henry Fonda and the other guy at the end of the bar kind of don't really like each other. And I'm not
Yeah.
sure why. Maybe that guy is just kind of an asshole, or he says something or whatever. But the point of this scene is there's a woman that he really likes, was supposed to be waiting on him, and she's bounced out to San Francisco, which is why he was looking at that photo or the painting on the wall so longingly, is because, and making comments about it, is because I don't think that that's his lady, although it might have been. But she's supposed to be here. And when he finds out she's not, he's like, oh man, that sucks. And they go into this whole thing, what's there to do in this town? And this guy at the end of the bar is the guy taking the shot right now. He's talking a bunch of crap. And the bartender's kind of feeding into it. Plus he's had about 5 or 6 shots now. So
Yeah. And two, there's talk of cattle rustlers around too.
Right. Yeah, they're talking about cattle rustling, and
this guy kind of infers that
They could be the
character
cattle
is
rustlers,
one of
right?
them. Yeah.
I got that vibe big time, that like he's like, hey, careful what you talk about, his Colonel Potter buddy there. And I'm like, ooh, so are these the guys that rustled the cattle and they're just kind of in town now? And or are they, is this going to be like some kind of thing where they're actually bad guys but they're going to try to fit into the town? You get that throughout
it does sort of like play along only a little bit. And I actually kind of wish, if I had any criticism of the movie, I wish there was a little bit more of that, because when you get all the way through, we're talking like 90% of the film and there's that big turn, they could have been the bad guys and just nobody knew. Like it could have been just this crazy facade and twist. And I'm like,
I was thinking that too.
It really could go that way. Could give you all those breadcrumbs, let you kind of go that direction. And if they just laid it a little bit more and then twisted the way they did, it would have been even more shocking. But I don't know. For me, it's almost like I can't, because I know Henry Fonda wouldn't play that character. I almost feel like, no, he's not going to do that. So it's like it stinks that because my brain goes, yeah, that's not what Henry Fonda would ever do. He wouldn't do that. He would have to be the good guy. But I love the tension.
I read that when he was under contract to do, he had a bunch of movies he had to do for what is it, Universal, that did this one?
Yeah, he doesn't. He's no fan.
He wasn't happy with most of the roles he had. It was this movie and one other that he actually was excited to be in, from what I read. Now, now these guys all have guns, but look at that. He just cowboy booted that dude, double kicked him in the face.
Yeah.
And then the bartender knocked him out with a bottle.
They bottled it. Yeah. So it's 20th Century Fox, and it was this and Grapes of Wrath.
Right. Yeah, that he liked. Yeah.
Yeah, he's fond of. Yeah.
So they have this fight. I mean, nowadays the guys would have went for their guns already.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But back then, that's just not what you did.
Well,
if you have no reason to pull out your gun, then don't do it.
On somebody, you're gonna get shot. You could get shot too. And actually, I think it's funny how movies have desensitized most people to realize that both people usually got shot. Or most people missed. Yeah. Like it wasn't like it was. But a safe thing
that's
to do.
A permanent thing. Once you pull that gun out and somebody gets killed, that's it. You've either drawn your gun on somebody and murdered them, or you've got yourself killed by drawing your gun. So it's and they knew that. And like, you can't go back.
Yeah. And also, is it worth it? Like, is this just two drunk dudes? Like, is it really worth it to pull my gun out on this guy who just insulted me? Like, is that really worth it?
Right. So you beat him down. They throw water on him to get him up, which in real life, he would have been concussed all to
Yeah, right.
into the outer space from that, and maybe died
He
from it.
wouldn't be in this.
Yeah.
He would be out of the stratosphere.
But
Yeah.
the thing is these two guys don't like each other, right? And yeah, see, he's acting this way because the girl's gone. He's mad and he wants to take it out on somebody, and the other guy
Yeah.
is obliging him by kind of being already a jerk. And
And then he
but
has to go throw up because he has a concussion.
mhm, right, and he just did 6 shots in a row, back to back.
Yeah. He's like,
And then
"Now I
this
gotta
guy comes
start
riding
over."
into town at full speed. This guy here, and he runs in. And look at this set. I mean, it looks weathered. Nothing. It doesn't. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It looks like a real town. So maybe
I
this
think
was
this
like
is
a
the
location that they shot at a bunch.
I think this is the same town they filmed the Magnificent Seven, like the opening part.
I really feel like a lot of these old westerns they use the same sets.
They do.
Yeah.
There's just,
Just
a Fox.
different-
It's just
different
a
angles.
Fox Western set, and there's a few
Yeah.
modifications they'd be allowed to make. But yeah,
When I lived in Tucson, they had a place outside of town called Old Tucson, and it was where they shot a bunch of movies in the 30s and 40s, and they kind of turned it into like a tourist thing. So you could go there, and they had like, this is what the movies look like, and they had like little Western shows and stuff. And then it caught on fire somehow in the 90s, and like most of it burned down. So they rebuilt it though.
I know that in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Tarantino's film, that's that little town they go to. That's an actual set. He purposely wanted to film there, so you could say he did. So a lot of those some of those old westerns, stuff like that was actually a movie set. That it kind of plays that way in the movie, but it actually was an actual set. So
Mhm.
imagine those on scale for these different studios around the area that
Right.
have them.
And the reason I say that is because if you looked at the that last shot, there was a slatted staircase going up like to the porch. It had long grass growing through it, so it wasn't
Yeah.
just built.
So they find out that somebody, forget his name, but a wealthy
Kincaid.
landowner's been
This guy
Kincaid, yeah.
killed. Or,
Yeah, he had been shot in the head. This guy comes in. He said he's been. Now I can't remember if this guy found him or this is what he heard from somebody else.
Yeah, they were playing a big game of telephone because I remember at one point, like somebody said, actually, he was like shot and blah blah XYZ, and it's like, wait a sec, what?
Right. So this guy runs in. He tells everybody Kincaid has been shot, and they're like, "All right, let's get a posse together to go find out who did it to catch him." And they're like, because they've been talking about cattle rustlers, like, well, who did it? Who could have done this? And they're like, well, cattle rustlers, because he has cattle. And this guy on the horse is his friend, and he's the guy that just got in a fight with Henry Fonda, where Henry Fonda
Yeah.
double kicked him in the face. And now they just totally forgot about it because that's what men do. But he he's like, let's go right now. We're just ride out with as many people as we can get and just go get them. And this old guy here is saying, hey, let's get the sheriff, let's get the judge, let's get everybody deputized, let's do this right. We'll get more people and everything. And so he convinces him that that's the right course of action because, they don't have enough information. Also, they want to wait until they get more info, figure out where they went, and that because otherwise he's just going to be riding around the countryside, not knowing where he's going, and possibly not be effective. So he's like, let's get intel on this. More people will tell us where they found him at, maybe, or whatever, and we'll get it going. So that's what this scene's all about.
Yeah.
We must ride out now. Where are we riding to? I don't know.
And this starts the thing where he is like, who's with me? We're going to get these people, and we don't really care. We're just going to catch them, and we're going to string them up. It's going to be no due process. We know they're guilty already. We're mad. We're upset. We're tired of people messing with us and stealing our cattle and stuff. So we're going to teach them a lesson, and we're just going to end them. And so he's getting a bunch of people on his side right now by doing
he's
this.
riling them up.
He's
Yep.
riling them up. But this old guy is like, well, wait a second. Let's do this, because he's like with a shop
Let's
owner
do
or
it
something
right.
that owns the stores. Yeah. And he's an older person, so he has wisdom. He's maybe seen how this has gone bad in the past. And he's also, because he lives in town and he has a store, he wants to live by the rules because
Yeah.
that's how he's successful. Where these other guys are out on the range a bunch, it's a little more fast and loose out there because it has to be, because there isn't just a sheriff hanging around all the time. And
Mhm.
the sheriff isn't in town. He went somewhere else to deal with something. And they don't
Yeah.
know when he'll be back.
Pops, you said you found a couple of locations.
I thought
Oh.
he actually
Filming?
went to Kincaid's to investigate, and that's where he was
Yeah,
during all
we
of
don't-
this.
I
We
think
don't
that's
find that
correct.
out until later, though. But yes,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Sure, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, at this point, we don't know where the sheriff is. He's out of town on business. And there's a deputy, but this guy, old guy, doesn't want anybody to tell the deputy because he's more like the guy on the horse. He's going to be like, yep,
Yeah.
let's go get him. And who cares what the law is, really? I got a badge, so I'm just going to use it however I want. And they already know this about the guy. And then this old guy here, he's like, oh, well, I'll just get the rope, man. I just want to see it hanging.
He just wants to crack the jokes too, man.
Right. He wants to crack the
Yeah.
jokes. He wants to be the one to bring the rope and all this.
Yeah, I shared the screen, Jacob, if you want to pull it up real quick. It's a website called Real Streets. And you can put movies in and it'll show you locations. I'll put it in private chat so people can you check it out for the second. I'll put it in the actual thing too. So, so it just shows there's like 6 captures. The first one on the first 2 that you were talking about, Shieldwall, that's all Century City. So that's the western backlot, basically. There's 2 different angles up and down the street. And then on the far right, that's the second unit. That's over at Alabama Hills in California. And then when you scroll down, they take you out to Lone Pine, which is a favorite location. And then they have a couple of the other locations and shots. And then, of course, there's backlot stuff, things like that. So, yeah, Real Streets. It's kind of a fun little website to kind of bookmark if you're into that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Yep. But yeah, this guy got on my nerves, man. You were ready to shoot him. Like he keeps cracking the news joke, and it's just like it's so like, dude, it's so full of bloodlust, almost like just a disregard for human life that you're just like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was the one who was like, yeah, you bring the rope, but you bring it for yourself. That was kind of my feeling about him. Just like, I don't like you.
And so the whole time, the Henry Fonda and Colonel Potter are like, I don't know if we should get involved in this. And Colonel Potter's like, yeah, but you don't want to start like backing out and start drawing attention onto us, because we could very easily become the next people in line to get hung. And I was thinking, man, they must have something to do with it, or they had some other crime going on, and that's why they're scared or whatever.
And then
at
here
this
with
point
this
in the movie,
yeah, and then we have the flip with this guy, another older man who's saying we just need to go out and string them up.
is this that's not the Colonel, is it?
No.
This guy here. Okay, I can't remember who. There's so many like extra characters, it's hard to keep track of them all. There's really only like 5 or 6 main ones, but there's a lot of people in the town that perk up. And right now, still, they're talking to this guy and trying to talk him into just making an official posse.
It's the judge, right? They're trying to get to the judge and make the
he
judge
goes to
say
the
it's
judge.
okay. And the deputy's like, I'm in charge. And the deputy is pressured into like deputizing the whole group.
Well, like the judge is like, wait a second, deputy, you can't deputize other people. That's the sheriff.
Only the sheriff can legally do it. And he's like, screw it, I'm doing it anyway. We haven't got to that part in the movie yet. This is where they're still trying to. He's like, hey, can you go and get the judge? I need you and the other guy, this other dude, to go get he's like, please go get the judge. Tell him it's important. Have the judge come down here. Maybe he'll talk some sense into people. And he's like, okay. And so Henry Fonda, I mean, he's like the alpha of the, like, people go to him for, you know what I mean? They know he's going to get, yeah, see, here's this guy making jokes, but everybody, there's a couple of characters that people defer to. The guy riding the horse that wanted to go string him up, he's like the leader of the let's just go kill him portion. And then Henry Fonda's character becomes kind of like the de facto leader of the people that are like, hey, let's not do this. It's kind of like he doesn't even really want to be there. Now this guy, he owns this big house. He's
Confederate soldier.
he was a major in the Confederacy, and
Yeah.
he's got a son who is very timid. And I got throughout the movie he might be actually gay. And if you look up the actor that plays him, he was married a couple times, but he did wind up at the end having a male companion until he died. So this guy here.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was something that I just got the vibe off the actor, or they specifically put it into the story. But back then they didn't say that. They just said he was feminine, because he's like, I don't want any feminized man and to carry on my family name. He says something like that later in the movie.
Well,
So,
there are men who are a little effeminate too, that aren't gay. So,
right. But
yeah,
I just kind of, the
yeah.
way that the story was going is, I got the feeling is that's why what happens to this major colonel character, or is he a major? I think he's a major.
He's a major.
Yeah. Anyway, what happens to him and how he deals with his son that's where I got that kind of feeling from.
There definitely was playing up that story element in this world, right? So I thought that was actually good. Whether it doesn't really matter if he's just effeminate or gay or whatever, it's just like the idea that you would have a town, and this is the type of diversity of humans that you have living in this old West town faced with this conflict. Like, wait a minute, we're losing our order. Like, forget about law. Law is out the window right now. We're losing order. Like, we need the judge to help us figure out how can we maintain some order, because we're getting ready to like execute just random people by all these randos in town who just want blood. They just see red. What do we do? And that's kind of the first act, is all of this sort of like coming together before you end up with like a band of townspeople to go out looking for someone.
And look who this lady is. It's the Wicked Witch of the West.
I knew I recognized her going.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, that gives me chills.
Was she the wife? Yeah, it is.
She's the maid of she's the housekeeper.
Okay, she's the housekeeper.
But look at, so everyone's like, well, back then women didn't have any rights or power or agency. Look, she is holding these guys at the door because women were in charge of the house. So these guys are not going to step foot in the place unless she tells them it's okay.
Yeah, with
also
their dirty
her
boots.
demeanor. But there's a direct delineancy of how things were worked out, and also because of her social status. So, but she's not married to the judge. She's just the maid, or the housekeeper, which is much more than a maid. But basically, she handles all of his stuff. She probably handles his finances too.
There's a quick line. It's kind of insinuated that she just runs everything. It's insinuated he doesn't make any. It's a quick little line that kind of comes by. It's a very fleeting thing if you may not catch it. And basically, she's just given total run of the household.
He also, they said, hey, is the judge making decisions or something? But like, well, since his wife died, he's not. Which also intimated that he didn't make decisions. Like, basically, his wife was always in his ear. And he would say, what do you think about this? And then she would say, whatever, which is, if you're in a healthy relationship, that's how it works. You know what I mean? Like, you don't make big decisions without your spouse or your significant other, whoever that happens to be, if it's a good relationship, weighing in on it, especially if it's going to affect them as well. So this notion that men are just running around doing whatever they want is not, back then, is not necessarily valid. Did it happen? Sure, but it wasn't the norm.
Right.
So this is the deputy.
The deputy. Yeah, you can see his little, behind his chair there, he's got his star.
Yeah. And
the one who's in the major's back pocket.
Right.
I'm a deputy.
Well, and he's not wrong. They come in and they start saying, hey, we have a problem and we need some legal stuff. And he's like, well, hey, if it deals with anything for the sheriff, then you got to talk to me about it. And they're like, well, we don't really want to talk to him, because the old guy said from the shop owner dude was like, don't get this guy involved, because he'll just follow the rest of the group. He's kind of a bad
spineless.
To be doing the job. Probably why the sheriff picked him, though, is because he's assertive and aggressive, and that might be who you really need if like, you
Yeah.
need to like arrest somebody. But and the judge is kind of real passive too, in my opinion. Like he's a judge, but doesn't seem like he has a whole lot of power in the movie to me.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's if he were to actually exert his authority, he'd probably have more power. But also, I have a feeling like most of the people in the town know that he's just like I'm just here. I'm a judge, and
Just
that's
entitled.
just
Well,
Yep.
and you know, judges back then were a little more. They were out there in the West. You know, they had more say in
Mhm.
almost like they were a sheriff too.
Right. Like a
I
town actually having a judge in it, yeah, that's a pretty big deal. It's a sizable town then, because most of them
Yeah.
were traveling around. You'd have to hold somebody for 6 to 8 months till a judge showed up, and then you'd prosecute the trial. Which is why the guy that's so bloodthirsty, the first guy that was the friend of Kincaid, doesn't want to wait, because he's seen this process fail in the past, where the guy escapes, or they weasel their way out of it with some kind of like loophole or something. And because of the time it takes, this guy is now in his head is gonna get this, live it up in jail, and
Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
not what he wants. He wants revenge.
So the deputy goes out on the porch and kind of sees that there's something going on and there's a posse forming. So he just says he's going to deputize people and
Right. What happens is he goes out of the room, and he comes and he's kind of standing around out here on the outside, and they say, "Well, Kincaid's been murdered," and he walks back in, and he's like, "Well, that's under the purview of the sheriff." And they're like, "Yeah, I guess you got us." So he grabs his coat and leaves. So technically, the guy might be an a-hole, but he's not wrong. And
yeah,
I think that's also a through line of what's important about this movie, is that people might be unagreeable, hard to deal with, dumb, whatever, but a lot of times they're right in what they're saying.
yeah.
Technically, and that's what you have to do, is you have to follow the rule of law in order to get justice.
And the thing is, this deputy, he could have ended them from going out, without the sheriff. He could have ended it, but he just went along with it.
Yep. He could have just been like, "Let's sit here. I'm gonna go for the sheriff, and I'll be back."
Yeah,
Because the one theme that's going to be very consistent, because it starts very much so in Act One, and then it just kind of keeps spiraling like a snowball going down a mountain, and that is just the bloodlust. We have to
yeah,
have vengeance. We have to have revenge. They've killed this guy, and it was, it's like, okay, well, we're going to go find some warm bodies. And it's kind of funny that this is this revered Western tale, because we see very similar things, because a lot of detective work back in the day was just go around town and just beat on people till they gave up a name. It wasn't like actual, crime solving and looking for clues. And this guy, it's like, no, you just go punch people until they like gave up a name. And it's like, oh, okay, so and so did it. Go kill him. Go ring them up. Go take them to the sheriff or whatever. You're like, okay. So the idea that they would rely on law to keep some sort of order is really, really one of the great moral compasses that we lose sight of, for sure.
And this was already a concept back then of
Mhm.
due process, trial, innocent until proven guilty. Now, this guy that's coming up now, so for some reason, this town doesn't have a preacher. I don't know why, but this guy knows the Bible like verbatim. Also, a thing to add is this is a black man.
Mm-hmm.
His
yeah.
name is the actor's name is Lee Whipper, and he was in like a huge amount of movies back then. But think about this. So at no point, they treat him with a little bit of like, yeah, you're kind of a weirdo or whatever, but they're never like, we're not going to take you with us, get away from here. He's allowed to just walk down the street in town. He's You know what I mean?
He's kind of the
Yeah.
religious figure for all of them because he
Right.
knows the Bible.
He does. And in a way, he has a modicum of respect for that. And they listen to him when he talks. Like he can walk up to the entire group of them and say stuff, and they're not like just say racist stuff and then tell them to go away,
Yeah.
or worse. And I think that also has an aspect of, because this is out in Nevada, and things were a little different there. Nevada was, to my knowledge, never a slave-owning state, and also people went to Nevada to start new lives. So it was very forgiving, because you'll see here in the next scene when the major comes down what I'm talking about.
So
Yeah.
let me just interject that this is why I could never be a Hollywood studio executive, because I would find out about Lee Whipper and we would write a biopic. We would make a film about, because we could just call, the poster could just say Whipper, and it would be great, because we would talk about this guy's story and have a catchy little punch thing and break a bunch of narratives and glass ceilings. And this dude's great. He was in Of Mice and Men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
He's
guys,
old.
this is
He was
this
born
is
in
awesome, man.
1876. So by this point in the movie, he's like in his 60s.
He
when this
didn't die
movie
until
shot.
1975.
Right.
Oh, he
98.
probably
Yeah.
he probably remembers some like actual Civil War stories and stuff.
Yeah, he
this
wasn't.
guy-
Yeah, he was born pretty well after that. So, like 1876. That's what 11, 12 years, something like that.
Roughly,
Yeah.
within a decade or so of the Civil War ending, because the Civil War ended in 65, if I
Right.
remember correctly.
Right.
And his daughter was 94 when she passed away.
And
My
he also
goodness,
he made a
not with
bunch of
these genes.
he was in the Negro Sailor. He did a whole bunch of stuff to support like the war effort, and he was on the Hollywood Victory Committee. So this he was well respected in Hollywood, which is I think why he was put in this movie. And I don't know if the original character was black or not, but I guess it doesn't really matter. The point
Every
is,
iteration that I've ever seen, the Reverend is a black character.
I'm talking about in the book.
Um,
But anyway, he's a good character. He's well respected. They don't treat him like crap. I guess that's where I was going with it.
And two, also they're showing the demographics of the community, just
Mhm.
like a jury.
Yep.
You know,
Yes.
but this is
Because we'll have another character appear here pretty soon that is going to shock everybody.
yeah. Two, these are Northerners and Southerners that
Mhm.
moved out west after
This
the
is
war.
1885. So the carpetbaggers have already gotten all the money they could out of the South, and now it's time to move west.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so here's the judge, and he's like, hey, we should get the sheriff. We should find out what's going on. We should do all these things. And this guy's like, screw that. And he's like, please, this guy's more like a politician, really, than a
Yeah.
judge.
Yeah. Some judges at this time probably would have come out with a shotgun.
Oh, yeah. This guy's obviously not a hanging judge, because if he was, he would have just went with them. But
yeah.
Well, also like during that time, a lot of sheriffs were dual roles. Like I remember reading somewhere where a sheriff was the same as a judge, and like that was kind of a weird, iffy thing. But the town was only like 300 people, so it's like, well, what do you do?
Right. But that goes all the way back to English common law too. So, which is what most of our legal system is built on.
Yeah.
As a Gord King, this guy kind of looks like Trump with a different hair.
Yeah. Right.
It's not Trump. He doesn't have a "Make the West Great Again" hat on.
He doesn't have a comb over either.
Yeah.
I'm the best judge. There's no other judge like me. I will be the best one. And you all don't know. You all don't even understand how great of a judge I am.
Yeah. You all are being nasty people right now.
They all got the Colonel Sanders ties on too.
Yeah.
There are a few scenes in the movie where I think they could have kind of cut it out a little bit or shortened them up, but this ain't one of them. Most of it it's a pretty tight movie. There's only a couple of parts where you could totally remove it. So again, he was getting ready to ride off. He was like, "Screw this, I'm out." And then that's when the deputy dude shows up, because he was like, "Hey, if you don't come back, I'm gonna like arrest you or whatever." I think is what he said, because he was like,
it was
I just
the
want to go get
judge.
this
The
done."
judge that it was the judge that said that,
Mhm.
and then he goes riding off, and then the judge says something. I'll prosecute you if you do this, and he comes riding back at him, almost right into him. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
I was just waiting. I thought somebody was gonna say something.
oh.
I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. Well, I guess we can go into the fact that like this, how much or lack of respect this judge has to have for that guy to even
Yeah.
feel like it was okay to act in this way. Because like if that had been a hanging judge, the dude would have been like, okay, you're gonna threaten a judge, you're going to jail right now. Deputy over
yeah.
there, take
Right.
him to jail right now.
Has hold on, let's see here. Has Ma showed up yet? Jenny
Not yet.
Yeah.
That's
her
behind
there?
him over there in
That's
the
her,
plaid
isn't it?
shirt. Yeah. So okay, so two things happen. Ma shows up. She's a woman. She's back there on the right there. Yeah, see where the cursor is. And she's like a Calamity Jane kind of character where everybody respects her. You immediately get the idea that she's tough. She knows what she's doing. Of course, she
She's
looks like a dude.
ornery.
She looks like a dude. She dresses like a
Yeah.
man. Um, so she's got, she's got her own weapons already. All this. She rides up and she's laughing and making jokes and stuff. So she's like a very Calamity Jane kind of character.
She's
Yeah.
also bloodthirsty. She's like, all right, let's
Yeah.
go let's go
Let's go
hang
hang
some
them."
fools.
Right. And so again, so there you go, Hollywood. There's your representation.
Right.
Okay,
This
then
whole
this
thing with
guy
the representation.
rides up.
You're
So
all
he's the major.
represented.
Now here's the thing. I don't know if he would be able to get away with riding around in a Confederate uniform.
Yeah.
Well,
For a lot
maybe
of
in
factors.
Nevada,
Like,
yes.
A, it might be against the law, like literally. B, there might be some people from the Yankee side that might have issue with it. Now he is rich. He's the richest guy in town. He lives down there because of his wife. He married a wealthy woman, and I think in Louisiana. They talk about it in the story in the movie, and then he moves out here with his son. But one thing about this character is he's kind of a douche, but he's a competent douche. So like
Yeah.
all of his strategies and tactics, and he can rally the people. He's a leader of men, like for real. They listen to what he says. He never makes a bad tactical decision or strategic
Yeah.
decision. Makes bad calls about like what to do with people and stuff, but is actual like where we're going to go, how we're going to do it,
Yeah.
how
So
we're going to get
he's a
there.
competent
Right.
soldier.
Right, exactly. And if he would have just stayed in that capacity, the problem is because of he used to be a major and now he starts feeling this power. I have this power. I'm like leading men again and troops basically, and they'll listen to what I
Yeah.
say, and I'm going to basically run this. And so he starts
It's
to get
power
lost
hungry.
in this power hungry fantasy. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Which is what feeds into the whole bloodthirsty mob mentality. Although he has a certain level-headedness to him where you can, if you were able to, you could talk to him logically and say, okay, this doesn't make sense because of X, Y, and Z. He could agree with you if you could convince him of that. It's just most of the people in the posse are not either capable or willing to do it. And then
Yeah.
he's got his Mexican sidekick. And I can't really he he has some pieces of information to pass, and I can't really remember what went on with that.
If I remember correctly, the Mexican dude was like, "Yeah, I saw 3 people taking
Oh,
cattle
that's
with the
right.
right
Yes.
with this brand this
That's right.
way."
So the colonel shows up because they all think that the rustlers and the guys that killed Kincaid went through some South Bend gulch or something. And the colonel rides up and he's like, no, they went up into the mountains through the old stagecoach pass. And they're like, really? It'll be cold up there this time of year. And this guy says, oh, I was coming back from a place and I had to hide because I saw these 3 guys and they had a bunch of cattle. This is what he was telling. So this is how they know that there's people with cattle up there. And he's
Right.
like, so I came and I told the colonel and now I'm here to tell you. And he does it in kind of like, I like with like a comical Mexican accent. So
Yeah.
Sí, señor.
yeah, kind of thing.
Sí, señor.
But
Sí, señor.
he does play a more prominent role later in the story because
Yeah.
they need him to translate. So then they have this face off where this guy with the white hair is like, hey, we need to wait for the sheriff. We need to get all the details and all this. And the colonel's like, nope, I'll lead this posse and we'll go serve justice.
Yeah, I think his specific words were, "Whatever the majority decides is what
Yes.
we'll do."
Right.
Yeah.
Which again, is up to a point makes sense, right? Where it's not just going to be random mass killings. It's going to be, we're all going to decide as a unit what we're doing. We'll vote on it and kind of stuff. So sounds good so far. Right. And then this is where the deputy is like, okay, I will now swear in everybody. And the judge is like, bro, you can't do that. And he's like, screw you, I'm doing it anyway. So from this point on, nothing they do technically by the letter of the law is legal.
Yeah.
Does that mean that it won't get overlooked or, will they be prosecuted for it if everything goes perfectly? Maybe not. But basically from this point on, they think that they're empowered to do it and they're not.
Yeah.
Which also bolsters their bloodlust. Anybody that was reticent to do it is like, well, I'm a deputy now. Here's the other thing, though, is some people could have decided not to do it, but then the town would have shunned them if they didn't go.
Yeah.
There's those few people that specifically state, like Colonel Potter and Fonda's character, that are like, well, if we don't go, we're going to look bad. And then they're going to start wondering about us. And again, that feeds into well, do these guys have something to do with it? The idea in your head.
Yeah, are they going to call us yellow-bellied cowards
this
and
is
stuff?
when they all raise their hand to be sworn in, and Fonda's character reluctantly raises his hand.
Yeah.
And it's an oath. I swear to I will uphold the law for this particular. I'm a deputy for this particular murder. I'm not a deputy that can go do anything I want. It's this posse is for this specific purpose. And that's what I legally have. So at least he gets that part of the law right.
Yeah. Even though he has no power to deputize.
Right.
Yep.
And the judge even tells everybody that, but they still go along with it. And the Reverend guy, he doesn't deputize, but he's going with them because he wants to kind of be the voice of reason. He is the one part of the moral compass.
Yeah.
Also, if you notice, he has no gear.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He has no jacket. He has no gun. He don't have anything. And
I don't think that's his horse even.
No, they gave him a horse to ride.
Yeah.
This old guy let him have a horse to ride because he doesn't own one. Now, see, they could have totally said, ignored him and just been, they're the ones that asked him what he thought. He was sitting there whittling, and they're the ones that interacted with him to get his opinion.
Yeah.
So this part could have been cut down. All this riding around stuff.
The riding sequences is just like, wait, do we really need to see them riding through the hills with the rocks? And I think a lot of Westerns do that because it's like, oh, look at the majestic background.
Shots.
Well, obviously these were all, location shots here.
Yeah. Which, if you took the time to go out there and do it, you might as well throw it in.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but look how beautiful that is. This is in California somewhere, I believe. Probably doesn't look like that anymore.
Especially this shot here.
Only things still looked like that in the Wild West.
Oh, there are places in New Mexico that look just like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There might be
even
the odd,
parts of Texas.
yeah, there might be the odd trailer with a bunch of junk cars around it out there
Yeah.
somewhere, but for the
I
most
hate
part,
trailers so much. So much. Only because I grew up in trailers and I lived in trailer parks and people called me trailer trash. And I'm like, I hate trailers now.
I didn't mind them. I lived in a few because of where I was like stationed or whatever. It was like the most expedient thing. And yeah, they're all right. If you know why you're there, you know what I mean? Like I was there because I don't know. It was a different feeling, I guess, because of what I was.
We were there because we were poor.
Yeah. To me, it was the most expedient because I wasn't going to be there that long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You weren't living your entire life in that trailer. See, I
knew
lived
there
my
was
entire
I knew
life
there
in
was
a
an end
trailer.
date to it. Like, you know, I'm only going to be here for 2 or 3 years or whatever. So, like this part could, okay, so they pull up here. It's cold. They're all cold. They want to rest the horses. The colonel's like, let's rest the horses, which is tactically sound. You don't want to overstress your horses. You want to feed and water them. And then while they're here, they're talking about, you know, what are we going to do next? And Fonda's character lights up a cigarette, and douchebag guy, the guy that wants to kill everybody, is like, hey, you're going to give us away with that light. And he's like, screw off, dude. And he's like, well, if you don't put it out, I'm going to shoot you. And everybody else lights up a cigarette, kind of like on his side, to just be like, hey, you know, cool down, dude. So, and of course they got to have whiskey to warm up.
Yeah. And that's another thing. People are drinking whiskey.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Back then. Yeah.
Drunk.
Because of course, riding on horses, going to lynch somebody drunk is what you need to do anyway.
Well, the horse knows where it's going. So you're good.
Yeah.
Don't you ever want to ask, like, who brought the horse feed?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they could
forage. We have a suspension of disbelief in Westerns. It never comes up. It's like, we're going to let horses graze at night. They don't graze at night. They want to lay down. It's like they would not eat enough by just grazing a little bit. They would actually need feed. We never get to see the feed bag guy.
Yeah.
He's just in the back with a mule. I'm coming, guys.
Yep, that's exactly what would happen. Or there'd be a wagon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there's Ma. She's got a nice plaid.
She looks beautiful.
Yeah.
I love Ma.
Jacket. Yeah.
I like that they included a Ma. She was a good representation of the bloodthirsty woman in town.
Yeah.
No one wants to mess with. She's got a spittoon for sure.
Oh yeah. So look, yeah, this guy has no jacket, but yet he's not that cold. And then Fonda's character offers him a blanket, and he says, "But my hands, I got to keep my hands free to ride." Which I was just like, "Well, just tuck that thing in your suspenders, bro." But I don't know if he's supposed to be like, his character is supposed to represent some type of like austerity or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if there's some type of supposed to be an allegory for him doing that, it's supposed to represent something about his character, which I think it does. I just can't understand.
The meek and mild inherit the earth. Probably, I feel like that's probably what he's trying to embody, is the meek and the mild.
But why he's going with no equipment? Why he won't accept the blanket? That kind of stuff. Because he's obviously cold.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's like his faith keeps him warm kind of thing, is what they're getting at. Of course, he's going to have another pull of this, and then he offers him, and he says no. Or maybe he offers him later. But anyway, there's a point where he's offered alcohol, and he says no, he doesn't drink.
So then a stagecoach comes through. Oh, here's the part you're talking about.
Yeah, where they all light up. See, and this guy's got a look on his face like, oh man. Yeah, see, he's like, if you don't put that out, you'll give us away. I'll shoot you right now. And we could
Like
just go
everybody
over
else
this.
is lighting up.
Everybody lights up.
Yeah, they're like,
Like, calm down, bruh.
yeah.
Gord's comments hysterical. In westerns, horses drink whiskey.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you, Gord.
how they do
You
it.
brought a smile on my face. Thank you for that. I needed that. It's good.
So then a stagecoach comes through and sees guys in the shadows and just starts shooting.
Well, that's because they start chasing it, right?
Yeah.
So it's coming down here. Why they're riding around at night, I don't know. I don't know if that was like a real thing they did. Maybe they did, but this is like a pretty treacherous path. So this guy shoots them because he doesn't know who they are, and it hits Colonel Potter in the arm.
Yeah.
So the stagecoach guards think they're being attacked, basically,
Right.
for those of
Yeah.
you who've never seen this movie. So this is it is interesting. You bring up the best point. It's like, why on earth would a stagecoach be going around at night? And then if it is going to go at night, it would not be going on some random side road
Right.
cliff's
Well,
edge
this-
that would put them in harm's way. Or
This
To
is
give
supposed-
them like the benefit of the
Yeah.
doubt kind of things, like that is very suspicious. Like, what the heck is this thing doing here?
correct.
well, it also plays into that the posse really doesn't know what it's doing. And
That
they're
is
just
very
looking for
important.
people randomly. Like any people they run onto on the road could possibly be the people they're going to just start stringing up. And so the stagecoach is either coming from or going to San Francisco. And then they have this part in here. Like this whole scene could have been cut. The whole they're smoking
Yeah.
to this next part could have just been cut from the movie because this is his love interest. This
Well, I think they needed more time for the movie,
right. They had to
to
pad it
get
a
it
little
into a
bit.
theater.
Yeah. So they have this is Fonda's love interest who bailed on him out of town. And so the stagecoach has three people in it. This matronly looking woman and this guy who looks kind of, he's all rich. He turns out to be her new husband. And
Yeah.
that's her sister-in-law. And they're traveling. I can't remember if it's to or from San Francisco. And then the colonel comes up, he talks to him, he's like, hey, what are y'all doing out here? And they're like, hey, why are you chasing us? And they're like, oh, we were looking for people. And they're like, oh, it was a misunderstanding. So Colonel Potter's over here, shot in the arm, bleeding. And then
Yeah.
they keep panning back and forth between Fonda and the woman, like, and it's obvious. She's looking at him like, I'm right here. Yeah, see, look at that. She's like, oops, I may have made a mistake because I can smell your Chad alphaness from right here.
Yeah.
And, but I married this other guy.
I chose money.
Yep, she chose money
Yep.
and comfort and whatever. And so what he's doing here is, I guess he's gonna heat up the end of his gun to stick in the bullet hole. Never
Uh-huh.
seen that before as like
Yeah, me
a
neither.
thing.
Gonna cauterize the wound.
Yeah.
You're gonna cauterize that wound, baby.
Yeah.
Dig it out. There's been a lot of chat talk about the life expectancy during the
with your
West and how
Bowie knife.
dangerous and
I think the average life expectancy for someone around that time period is maybe 40.
I was gonna say,
Maximum
I
45.
usually read it's about 30 to 35, and it's just, first off, the infant mortality rate is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And medical
Terrible.
care really wasn't that far. It was a lot of still like cut it out and pour booze on it, cauterize it. It's like it was just still very barbaric. It wasn't a whole lot better than 100 years prior. Very few things had been developed really of any. And then the luck trying to find a doctor out in the Old West, let alone
Right.
there's no
Yep.
doctor in this posse.
Mhm.
It's just a bunch of cowboys who are just like, yeah, you'll be all right. Here, chew on this stick while I carve out
Yeah.
this bullet.
So she goes to try to help him because,
Love interest.
no,
Why not?
The guy that got shot.
Yeah,
'Cause
she's helping Art.
She's a woman, and
Yeah.
she goes in there, and he's like, "Get away from me!" And then, because she know, I think he might be mad at her for what she did to his friend, and also he doesn't want her to be messing around. So he tells her to mind her own business. So she goes back.
And then this guy says, you can come visit us and not visit us when we're
Yeah, he's
when
like,
we're
look,
back
I
in
know
San
that
Francisco.
you liked her and that you thought you were going to marry her, but she's with me now. And so if you're a friend of hers, then I'll be a friend of yours, and you can come when she's ready and everything's settled down, and like, you know, I've knocked her up and stuff, then you can come see us in San
Yeah,
Francisco. Basically, he passive aggressively told this guy to F off.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, right.
and but he's cool about it. He's like, all right, whatever, man. And again,
Yeah, man.
this whole thing didn't need to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of
That beta man.
yeah, it's like he's totally like you know, the beta of the situation. But again, I think Jacob, you said it right, that they had to get the watch time to a certain point, right? They had to get it over
right.
90 minutes. Yeah. So, and I think Henry Fonda, and again, this stuff's in the book, right? So I can see this as being Henry Fonda stuff. Like Henry Fonda's like, no, you're not cutting this out of my care. I need this stuff in there. I need to have a love interest. I need to have this. I need to have that. Yeah. So I agree with what you're saying, Shieldwall. We could definitely lose 15, 20 minutes of this movie for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
It just
But
didn't
at the
make a
same
lot of
time,
sense to me.
yeah,
Like, what was the point of it? But I guess that's life. You know, you're
it's
like,
character done. It's just,
yeah,
yeah, it's just character of this main character that we're just supposed to care more about. You know, Carter's decisions and what kind of guy he is. He's, you know,
I know in other iterations they actually do cut those parts out because I've seen one where it doesn't show that part of the love interest thing. So I didn't have a
this
problem
shot
with them
right
taking
here,
it
well,
out.
the one previous to this gives you a really good scope of the size of the posse. It's a lot more people than you maybe thought it was. Because I think with the way the camera is always shot, yeah, look how many people that is. It just
well, there's
goes
a
on
line
and on.
about that, right? Because
Yeah.
because the line when they come, well, because that's what's happening next. They come across the three people, and he
Yeah.
has a line about like, why do you have so many people? He's like, well, most people haven't seen a triple hanging before.
Right. And so,
Yeah,
yeah, a
it's
lot
like
of them join just
you got
for
a bunch
that.
of looker-ons. They're
And
like
it's
they're like they just want to see it for the show. They're not there actually there
yeah.
to do anything.
And
Making
most of
decisions.
these people have already made up their mind that okay, there's going to be a hanging. You know,
Right.
there's no other
Mhm.
way around it.
Right. And there are some people that are so invested in seeing it happen that they can't envision anything else. So here's where the colonel or the major takes charge, and he's like, all right, I need, 6 people to go over here, 6 people to go to the left. These people are all sound tactical decisions that make sense, no nonsense. And
Yeah.
the people listen to him because he knows what he's talking about. And also, he's wearing a uniform. If he wasn't wearing a uniform, people might be less inclined to listen to him. But because he is wearing one, it automatically people think, okay, he knows what he's doing because he's got one on. It's
And
just like when you
he's
see a
riding a
cop
white
walking
horse
around,
too.
whether you know
Mm-hmm.
anything about this police officer personally or not, the fact of wearing a uniform immediately makes you interact or view them in a certain way, positively, negatively, whatever. For most people, it's, oh, am I speeding? Am I doing anything? You know, they got a weed hanging out my lip or something they're going to stop me for, you know?
Yeah.
So they see these people sleeping. You can tell this guy is Hispanic because he has a sombrero,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then
which, I mean, it's legit. He's got like, Hispanic clothes on and stuff.
Anthony Quinn.
Yep. You know what? I looked at a bunch of other people's biographies, but I didn't look at his because it was so long.
Yeah,
'Cause he was
Anthony
in a
Quinn
lot of
is in
stuff.
a ton of stuff,
Yeah.
man. He's a great actor.
Yeah, look how young he is.
And he's the first one up too.
Well, in this movie, his character is inferred to be kind of a scoundrel.
Yeah.
Like he's good at cards. He can throw knives very well. It is a little stereotypical of the, you know, um, of the Mexican kind of bandito slash romantic hero kind of thing. Because he's
I
good
felt
looking.
really bad for the old dude in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, they wake him up, they disarm him, and these guys have no idea. Like this old guy, right? He's riding with them because the main guy here, he hired these two to help him move cattle, is what I surmise.
Mm-hmm.
This guy.
Mhm.
Yep.
And that old is the old man his father?
No,
He calls
Dad,
him. Yeah.
Dad as a
okay. So
nickname, but
just
he's
like
not.
he's a
He doesn't. Yeah, he's just some old dude.
yeah, and the old fella's simple-minded, I think, or not
He's
Mhm.
simple-minded.
dementia.
He's
He's got dementia
yeah.
because he's so old. Probably, no brain cells from all the whiskey he's drank.
And this guy's
Well,
another good actor too.
didn't they also
In a lot of
say
things.
that he was in the army at some point in time?
He was saying that, and then the colonel comes up to him, to the old guy, and says, "Attention." And he doesn't do anything, and he's like, "Well, he's forgot." And the colonel's like, "Well, you don't forget something like that," which again, I kind of agree with. If you've gone through that much drilling, that should, you know what I mean?
It's instinct.
It can be. I'm not saying that he's right, but it would seem more right than not to me. I'm telling you, if you've ever served and you start hearing a drill instructor yelling at somebody, your very first response is to kind of tighten up a little bit. And then you'll laugh because you'll be like, that guy's getting yelled
Yeah.
at. But if you serve for any length of time, yeah, it just comes all rushing back. So they tie him up and they start asking him questions like, "What are your names?" And Anthony Quinn's character is like, "No Savi" or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
No sabe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And then the old guy is like, "I don't even know what's going on." Here comes Ma. Oh, just laughing.
What a great still, Jacob. Thank you for
Yeah,
that. That's
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to screenshot that so I can make that into a thumbnail at some point.
Yes.
Yeah.
That face needs to keep on living right there.
Woo.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for
Thank
the woman who
you.
played that person. She probably got so much flack for that scene.
Was she the mother in Grapes of Wrath?
Oh, hold on. Her name is Jane Darwell. She was born in 1879 and died in 1967 at age 87.
Yes, she is the matriarch in Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy
So
smoke.
such a different role from that movie.
She must have 200 credits to her name here in her partial filmography.
Wow.
And it's her partial filmography.
But women were never we have always been underprivileged and just underrepresented and all that.
It's like what they're doing with Aquafina, where they put her in everything now. I think this is what happened to her. They were like, "Hey, we need a woman that's matronly looking, or she's going to play like a scoundrel or whatever, and she's not going to be the love interest. Let's go get her."
So I heard that Jane Darwell does the voice of Scuttle in the original film. Is that what you were saying? 'Cause I think that's what I heard, right? It's just she's the Aquafina of her era. You know?
That was it was
That's
Buddy
Buddy
Hackett.
Hackett.
Yeah.
I know, but I was trying to be
Oh,
facetious.
okay. Oh, right. She was in the Dollhouse. Like, it's too much.
I
for me
closed
here.
it. Yeah, I closed it.
Jeez,
It's massive.
ton
It's
of stuff.
massive. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, she's basically a character actor. Although I don't know what she looked like way back in the day. She might have had it going on, I doubt it, but she might have. So like one of her first things is from 1914. So it was a while ago.
Yeah.
So she's already she's like well into her 50s by this point, at least. So the questioning, and this again, his line of questioning is not out from outer space or anything. He's like, "Who are you? Where are you going? What were you doing? Is there any cattle around here?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I got 50 head." And he's like, "Who'd you get them from?" "Oh, I bought them from a Kincaid." And they're like, "Oh really?" So he's got Kincaid's cattle, which if you kill Kincaid and stole it, duh, 2 and 2 make 4. But he's saying he bought it from him. Well, first off, he's saying, "I bought a ranch over in this area. And this other guy will come up and say, well, no, that ranch is abandoned. The guy living there left it 4 years ago. And he's like, well, I bought it from him in San Francisco for $4,000. And so now my wife and kids are there now. And he's like, look, go send a rider. It's not that far, and ask them and find out. And they're like, nah. So he's like, okay. So the whole thing is that basically this guy, and he doesn't have receipts for the cattle. And they're like, well, why not? And he's like, well, Kincaid, I met him on the trail and he sold me cattle. And they're like, well, you bought cattle in the spring. That's weird. Why would you do that? It's like, well, I'm desperate. My other cattle are all sick or whatever. And there's another guy later that the colonel talks to and says, hey, you worked for Kincaid for 6 years. Did you ever know him to sell cattle in the spring? Did he ever not sell it with bill of sale? Because this guy doesn't have a bill of sale. So Kincaid said he would mail it to him. And he's like, no, I never known him to do that. But then again, I can't recall every cattle sale he's ever done. So basically it could have been, but
it's a lot of he said, she said stuff.
It's a lot of circumstantial and kind of, you know what I mean? Not exculpatory evidence. It's just kind of, you don't really know. And the thing is that if you just wait and you don't string these guys up, you can send people to go gather evidence to find out. But that's not what they want to do. They want to.
Yep.
So this guy wants to be all in charge and in charge of life and death, basically.
Yeah. Which I mean,
just wanted to point something out.
Well, that all like. Go ahead. Sorry.
I just wanted to point something out. His uniform. I don't know if this is intentional or not, but he only has 2 shiny buttons on it. I don't know if that's.
I don't know if that's the light or if that's intentional or just how it is. But I think that I recall some of the other buttons reflected. It just might be the way the light is on them or something in this shot. And then this guy, so they're like, well, what did we do? And they wouldn't even tell him at first. And this guy's like, got the rope all going. So these guys are, almost pissing their pants. And it goes from like, hey, this is a big misunderstanding to, oh, crap, we're dead. They're going to kill us.
Yeah.
This guy, so Anthony Quinn never talks. This guy is like trying to explain what's going on. And they keep going on about, so they found the cattle. He said he bought the house. He's got a wife and 2 kids over there. But he doesn't have the bill of sale. So it looks bad. It starts looking bad.
Yeah.
Then the old guy, since he's got dementia, now he's seeing the news, he starts getting scared. And he starts blaming Anthony Quinn character for doing it. Basically, like, I'll admit to anything if you just let me live. And that's what they start offering him. Well, you tell us what happened, we'll let you go. And so he just starts making stuff up because he's scared and doesn't want to die.
His story is absurd.
It's a crazy story. And they're like, look, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He just makes stuff up. This is when he was like, well, he was in the army. And he was like, what side? And he said, at one time or another, maybe both, which was a thing. People in the Civil War would start out in one and they would desert to the other. Usually, from what I've read, it was from the Confederacy to the Union because they saw how things were going to go. Or they were on a border state or something, and they could have got conscripted and then just ran off.
I have ancestors that were Southerners. They weren't in the military or anything, but the Confederacy confiscated their cattle for food, and that made them mad, so they went north.
And the other thing that's brought up about the colonel or the major is that he wasn't technically in the Confederate Army. He was a raider, which is basically like a reservist kind of quasi-military guy. So he wasn't like an active duty soldier that fought line and shoulder to shoulder. He did raids like Jesse James did.
Here's my favorite guy that I've just shot by now with his another noose joke. Yeah. So, but I want to go back to the absurd story because it was like, well, he was sleeping and I heard him talking, but then, well, he wasn't really sleeping. He just started telling me, but I didn't understand him. And then it's like the story is so absurd, but they care so little about getting to any truth. It's all about just trying to figure out some sort of hiccup to make them feel good about what they want to do. That's all they're doing. The whole sequence is drawn out with all his like questioning and just, you talked to that person once, didn't you, Bob? And he's like, yeah, that seems kind of odd. See, and it's like, well, what about this? Well, see, we don't have time to go ride all the way out there to go see his wife or not. It's like things like that. So,
And
So, right.
back
And
to
then,
Shieldwall's point, Anthony Quinn character almost from the beginning sees what this is. That's why he's not saying anything, because he
Yep.
knows this is a lynching. This isn't. No matter what we say, we're going to get lynched.
also, right. It goes back to the fact that I think he also thinks that if they're going to hang anybody, it's going to be him,
sure,
for the simple fact that he's not white.
he's a
And
brown guy.
Yeah.
he's a brown guy, right? Irregardless of the fact that there are actual people in the posse that claim to know him and say that he's not who he says he is, that he's basically like a scoundrel. So, and then he does some things later on that kind of prove that point. Meanwhile, the main character, or the main guy that has the family, this, I can't remember, his name was what was his name of the character? Hold on, I got it.
Dan.
It was Daniel, I think.
It's Donald,
Yeah.
right?
It's Donald. That's it.
It's Martin. Yeah, Martin.
Yeah,
He calls
Donald
him
Martin. He's still trying to, he can't believe this is happening, and he's trying to answer their questions as best he can to prove his innocence. But almost kind of the way things play out, it's a little bit far-fetched, and as far as the fact that he had the cattle and he didn't have the bill of sale, and it's like this conflux of all these bad things happening that makes it look like they're guilty. And
I will say, a film like
yeah.
this is an area of the film that doesn't quite age as well for some folks who doesn't want to relate, because they especially if you're not interested in the West or whatever, maybe you're not getting on why this is all so far-fetched. Like the idea that you're just going to have someone take possession of cows without having some sort of proof of purchase, and you're moving them in an odd time of the year, and you don't really have proof of your residency because no one in town knows you because you're new, and things like that. It's a lot of contrivances and conveniences that kind of makes you like an easy target, if that's the best way to explain
it.
Yeah.
It makes them look guilty, and this is why. But I think they did it on purpose so that the movie drives home the point that you have to have due process. If you take anything away from this movie, it's that there needs to be due process of law by people that are that's their specific function, is to
find this information out.
Well, and to adjudicate those things, like a sitting judge that's been sworn in, that knows the law, and then you have police that know the law and are sworn to, uphold the law. And they're not just, now you're in a situation where you're out in the West, there's not a lot of that stuff. The posse is a valid instrument of justice. It just needs to be overseen and ran correctly. So this guy,
it should have been the sheriff.
Right. Which they didn't want to wait for. Which, okay, so it was a judgment call on their end, as far as that goes. But it quickly spirals into a realm where reasonable people start to know this is not right.
Yeah. And this guy, the one voice of reason here, the older man here, they shut him up. I mean, the deputy grabs him and takes him and punches him, shuts him up.
But here's the aspect of it. They have all previously agreed and sworn to that they would go with the majority. So he can't go back on his word by saying, hey, I'm going to stop you from doing this somehow. Besides, he's outnumbered anyway, so he wouldn't be able to. But so now, so he's answering all his questions. And this guy in the back here on the horse. That's the one guy he's asking, hey, you worked for Kincaid for 6 years. Do you ever know him to sell cattle without a receipt? And he's like, no. But then again, I don't remember every cattle sale he ever did, and I wasn't around for them all. But here we go. So you see, they all got ropes out. They're all, hankering for a hanging. And then, so that conversation just kind of keeps going on. Where he keeps questioning.
This is like the big bulk of the movie is just this whole dialogue and conversation.
Right. And then this is where he's like, look, can't we send somebody to go find this stuff out?
And the answer should be obviously you can, but not with the bloodthirsty major,
Right.
stoking the fire and the fury of the posse. So that's just the
Right.
moral. The movie doesn't really deviate a whole lot. It keeps a very simplistic, condensed story around the idea of, justice and keeping order through a compromise. Like everyone deserves their day in court. Everyone deserves their fair trial, and not having to deal with like crazy witnesses who are being bullied and, hearsay. I want to say it's not even testimony. It's just these weird hearsay comments about, well, I don't remember the 600 cows. I mean, it's like, God, this dude's going to die. Like, what kind of response is that supposed to be in all this?
Well, he's trying to throw off blame or responsibility. It's like, well, I can't be responsible for what happened here because I gave them I don't remember a XYZ thing, or he's just trying to throw off responsibility for if this falls badly, which it does.
It is interesting how with the mob, it's easy to deflect responsibility because it goes back to like, you always hear people, with a knee-jerk emotional response, that person deserves the chair. It's like, okay, well, you pull the lever. And then it's then it's like, well, wait a minute. I'm not, yeah. So it's like the mob mentality here, I think, is really, really good because they purposely, and I'm sure that this is rooted in the book, but the conversations ping around so many different characters. It keeps blood on so many different hands, and not just like, yes, the major is an easy target, but there's so many people who have to put their 2 cents.
Well, also like this is a pure democracy. Like when people are talking about, pure democracy is best, or pure democracy, like this is pure democracy right here. This is mob rule, majority rules, and sometimes the majority isn't right.
Well, that's your thumbnail, Jacob. The Oxbow incident is, democracy on screen. Yeah, democracy in action. Yeah, you need to watch Oxbow.
So they drag him over here to string him up, and they get the horses ready, and they're like, well, hey, can at least you have the decency to let me write a letter to my mother, and we can like say prayers and stuff. So. And to me, this is kind of almost the most egregious part of the whole thing, is he's pleading with them. And finally, the colonel's like, okay, that makes sense. You know what I mean? So what we'll do is we'll postpone the whole thing till sunrise. Well, shit, dude, you could have sent somebody to go down to the place at least and wait till then.
Yeah, I know.
But he's also thinking, I need to use this to make a man out of my son, too.
Right. Yes. He wants his son involved in the execution. And but the other thing is he wants to look pragmatic and honorable at the same time. So by granting these concessions, right? And then Anthony Quinn, all of a sudden, okay, so he talks to him and he translates for him, and he says he's hungry. While they're waiting, he wants to eat. And then Ma finds some beef and it's like, all right, let's cook up some food. So they all start cooking up some food, and all of them eat together. Even the prisoners, they're all eating and drinking. Meanwhile, Daniel's writing and the shop owner guy gave him a book to write in so he could write his letter. And so I don't know if him wearing this over his head is like a religious thing or supposed to evoke that feeling, or if it's just he's wearing this because he's cold.
I really have to go back to, like you were saying, Shieldwall, though. It was so fun to see the excuses of why we can't verify anybody's testimony to everything gets put on hold. Or we're just going to eat. And it's like, I don't want to derail the conversation too much, Jacob. I apologize in advance for making any Mandalorian reference here, but Mandalorian. It's like, well, we know where the kid and the giant dragon is, but well, let's just stop and pitch a fire and just do nothing for 20 minutes. And I'm like, so when I saw this, and I know it's a silly parallel, but it's kind of like, well, why? Well, we were padding time. Like at least the people behind Oxbow were kind of like, yeah, we had to make it to 90 minutes to at least get this film to be Oscar worthy and stuff. We couldn't, do it. So at least they're willing to admit it.
Which, speaking of Oscars, is that this movie was nominated for Best Picture, but it was one of only two movies ever nominated for Best Picture that had no other nominations at all for like Best Actor, Script, or music or anything. It was just nominated for Best Picture at the 19th Academy Awards, I believe. So yeah, see, they're eating sandwiches. He's got bread. I'm assuming that's whiskey. It could be coffee. I don't know. And the horses are just chilling there waiting with the ropes already teed up.
Oh, same year as Casablanca.
That's what won. Casablanca beat them.
And I mean, can you really blame?
And then that's the kid, right? The major's kid, and he's constantly separated from the group. He's always standing around looking. He won't look at the horses or the condemned. He's either looking at the ground or looking off into the distance. And then this guy comes and starts doing like a little like prayer thing.
He's singing a song, or
yeah, because that's how
singing some hymns.
Because he doesn't have a Bible and he can't read, but he knows it all in his head. And now he's praying, especially with the old guy. He focuses on the old guy because he, Then these two are over here laughing it up. This is Mr. I'll swing you up on the rope joke guy and Ma, and she's annoyingly laughing the whole time.
I really wish that two of the ropes were for him and her.
And he's looking at that like, this is all just a big joke. I'm about to die. These people don't know what the hell they're doing. They won't take the time to do due process. And so this is when
he knows that Davies is the only one who'll trust him. Like he's the only one that believes in him. Yeah.
And he gave the letter to this guy, and this guy is like showing the letter to the colonel, and he's like, "Whoa, what are you doing? That was for my wife." And and now I don't even want you to give it to her anymore. You know what I mean? You guys are going to come here and you're going to murder me, like they called them murderers. You're going to murder me unjustly, and now you're going to pass my note to my wife around. It's like, screw that. Don't even give it to her. So then he talks to him and says, no, she needs to read it. It's important. So this is an important plot point here. He's telling everybody how important this letter is, but they never really read it. It's always like folded up. But you got to read it. Everybody read it. You'll change your mind. If everybody reads this, if I read it out loud, it'll change your mind. But the guy that condemns is like, no, I don't want you letting other people read it. This is personal. So he's like, all right, I'll abide by that. And so you look on his face. So you can tell now that he's resigned to die. He knows that he's not really going to get out of it, but he's like, give it back to me. And then the old guy's like, no, your wife needs to see this. Please let me deliver it to you to her after she's dead. So he finally says, okay. Then Anthony Quinn's character, while all this is going on, tries to make a break for it.
Yeah. And get shot in the leg.
Even further hardens the group's idea that they're guilty.
Yep.
Yeah, and they shoot him in the leg, which is what you should do.
And the main guy, well, I think it might have just been that's how it went down. It's dark,
yeah,
all that kind of stuff. But the guy that shot him is the main guy that wants him dead. Yeah. And so the old guy told him that the Mexican, this guy, crazy dude, told the whole group that Anthony Quinn's character is the one that killed Kincaid. He's the one that did the kill shot. So they were like, all right, let's go. That's why the main guy that wants to kill everybody is the one that wants to get him. So he's the one that shoots him. So they bring him back. And he's like, hey, can you give me a knife to dig this out of my leg? And so here's the other point is like, look, they're going to hang this dude anyway. Why do you even care? But they're letting him do all these things. Like they ask for favors and they grant them. The only thing they won't do is do anything to prove their innocence or wait.
Right.
But they'll let them do anything else they want. Say prayers, write letters, eat dinner, dig a bullet out of his leg. He's about to die in 5 minutes anyway.
But the overall guilt and the execution is already sort of set in stone in all of their mind's eye, and all this other stuff is sort of like this maintenance that they somehow think is okay to do. And it does create sort of a contradiction of what human nature will do. It's like, well, why are you, if you think they're these murderers that are ready to be executed, then why are you treating them this way?
Right. And also, shit, I lost. I was sorry. I can't remember what I was gonna say. And it goes. So they're gonna let him dig the bullet out. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. And every time that maybe somebody questions whether they're guilty or not, another piece of evidence will surface that reinforces their thought that they're guilty. That's right.
So
nobody will give him next, right?
Nobody will give him a knife, so the son of the major guy volunteers to cut the bullet out,
which I was kind of surprised.
Too squeamish to do it.
And the reason they don't want to give him a knife is because one of the guys says, "Hey, this guy's as good with a knife as with a gun. He can throw it just as accurate. So watch out for him." So again, it plays into the stereotypical, Mexican outlaw,
Mexican stereotypes,
right? Stereotype, yeah.
And actually, there's a name drop, right? They think he actually is this gambler. He may or may not actually be that. So there's like this gambler named Juan. Spanish guy's named Juan, and we gotta keep an eye on it. You mean Juan? You mean the Juan? Yeah. So, yeah.
And if you notice, Ma there is like delighted in seeing blood. It's kind of weird.
Well, it kind of reinforces the fact that all of them have a bloodlust. Like it wouldn't like if these three men were proven beyond a shadow of a doubt to be innocent, the posse, like not some of the members, but the overall posse would not care. Like they wouldn't. They'd be like, well, the cattle, and we're gonna hang them anyway.
Even this guy running off and getting shot and them dragging him back, they probably would have just carried on with the hanging right then.
Right. And this is when he speaks English.
Right.
And they're like, what? You speak English? And he's like, actually, I speak 7 languages quite well. But I only talk to people I want to. And then they start asking him questions, and then they get to a point where they ask him about who he really is, and then he's like, no sabi. So
and then flicks the knife at
right, and then flicks the knife between that dude's feet just to show, see, I could have killed you if I wanted.
Which does not help. Like, in my opinion, out of all of the three of them that they could have hung, the old man, like, I feel like really, really, there was no excuse at all. That guy, they could have, and it probably, like, not actually, but they would have been somewhat justified because he was probably an actual criminal out of the three of them. Like,
right. Yeah. Exactly. So, sun's coming up. So they waited all this time. So now he's talking with them, and they're like, man, we really shouldn't do this. And he's like, I don't think we should. This is not right, because it's the old guy here. Yeah. Indigo Montoya.
You killed my father.
Prepare to die.
Indigo Montoya is going to be like in the background.
Well, think about it. I think Anthony Quinn could have played that role really well if he'd have been young.
He could be in the sequel and be Inigo Montoya's father in the flashback.
Yeah. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
My name is Francisco Morris. I am a Mexican you call Juan. Prepare to die.
So they're having this conversation, and then let's see. They're getting ready to do this, and the old guy's like, hey, I want to have, you said it would be by majority, so I want to have a vote. So they're gonna have a vote now. Anybody that wants to wait for the sheriff and all this kind of stuff, come stand over on this side of the fire, the other side of the fire. And so of course that guy goes over there.
The black man,
right?
White-haired guy.
Yep, the old white-haired guy. And look how he's got his arms crossed.
Like, y'all should know better.
Right, you should know better. This guy comes across. I can't remember if he really had much to say in the movie up to this point, but
yeah, and then Fonda and his buddy go over there,
right,
and then the Major's son goes over there too.
Yeah, the Major's son goes over, and you can look on Daniel's face like almost a little bit of hope at first, but then when he sees not a bunch of people go, then he knows he's screwed. So now he's got this like look of disgust and hate because he knows that he's gonna die. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. I think a lot of the people maybe wanted, some of them might have wanted to go over there, but the peer pressure and the fear of being shunned in town and whatever would prevent them. And then there was the rest of them were just, they really wanted to get it done. And this guy wanted to preside over it all, the Major.
Yeah.
Because he kind of, like, the one guy wanted to kill the guy, and he wanted to do it. But as soon as the Major shows up, he basically usurped the entire process. So then Anthony Quinn's character says that he wants to do a confession to a priest. They don't have one. So he's going to use this, the other guy, what's his name?
Yeah, this
The black dude?
No,
Mexican
the
guy here.
No,
guy,
he
so
uses
we can
poncho.
speak to him in Spanish. Yeah.
They use his poncho.
Yep.
Yeah.
But here's the other weird thing, right? So let's see if we get to the part. So he goes over to pray, and there's like a sunrise with light coming down kind of motif with it. Yeah, here it is. See, look, you got the God rays coming down. He's given his confession in Spanish that everybody can hear.
Yeah.
Okay, so most of them can't understand it, but they understand what he is doing.
Copa. Gosh.
Oh,
I
I
agree
should
though.
I'm laughing. I couldn't hold it back. Sorry.
that's okay.
That's a good one. Oh boy. Shots fired.
So if you keep going here, and then so they're watching what they're doing. They're listening. See, they're all looking. And the see, people are starting to like, And it's what's weird is it's like they're very respectful of a lot of things. They give these people opportunities to eat, write letters, all these things. They don't like really beat them up or torture them or anything. This is when the Major says to the son, "You're going to be one of the ones that whips the horses to get them out of
And
there."
she's another one.
And like, I'll do it because he asks, and none of the other men want to do it.
Yeah.
The one guy that wants the guy dead for sure does. None of the other guys speak up. So he says, "I'll do it." Again,
Marge is all down, baby.
right,
She's going to do it.
that, but I think a lot of what she does is to prove that she's one of the fellas.
Yeah.
Right. And she can back up what she says. And then the colonel or the Major is like, "Hey kid, you're going to do it. So I'm going to make a man out of you." This might be where he says, "I don't want a feminine person carrying on my bloodline."
Yeah, I think
I don't know
so.
what he said, like a femme.
Something like that with
Yeah.
feminine. Yeah.
Effeminate, right. Oh, wait. Where was the point where they found the gun on
Yeah, it's when he tried to get away, it was in his saddlebag or something.
Oh,
and
okay.
They found
yeah, sorry, I missed that point.
the guy that was
He
killed
has
gun.
Kincaid's gun.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Where'd you get it?" And he's like, "Oh, I found it on the ground." So again, every time they might question whether what they're doing is right, some stuff like that happens.
But everything, it may seem out of, like, yeah, that could never happen. But it's pointing out these are all circumstantial evidence they have.
Right.
They
Although
don't have any real
all of
evidence.
well, okay, they have cows that they have no bill of sale for,
Yeah.
and they have his gun, right? So a reasonable person would be like, and they know that this dude here, Anthony Quinn's character, is kind of shady. Like,
Yeah.
people suspect that he might not be who he says he is. And of course, back then you didn't have like photo ID or anything. So it was just, I heard, you just roll into town and make up any name, and that's what they would know you by.
Yeah.
So again, it goes back to every time there might be a question about something, it gets reinforced that there's new evidence that comes to light that says, nope, these guys are guilty. Or at least one of them out of the group is, but we're going to hang them all just because they might have been there and compatriots and doing it or whatever.
Yeah.
So wait a second.
This,
did he pray already?
yeah. Yeah.
Where's the, because there's a part where he's praying where everyone takes their hat off. And that's the point that I want to make, is that even though they're about ready to hang these people, bloodthirstily hang them, they still respect the fact that he's praying.
Yeah.
I think it's while the noose is on their necks.
Oh, really? Okay, it might be then. All right.
I could be mistaken, but I think that's where it is, where he starts
remember
praying.
that you saw that shot. He's kneeling. He's praying.
Mhm.
God rays behind him. It's very,
And this man asks him, can you, without, telling us what he confessed, is there anything that you can tell us that would help, this not
right,
happen?
prove his innocence
help
or
their
whatever.
cause.
Yeah.
Oh, this is where they offer him alcohol. And Daniel says no. The old man says no. And Anthony Quinn's like, sure, I'll drink up.
Take a good swig of that. So he kind of loses it here.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Called them all murderers and beasts.
And I think this is it, where the black man is praying with the old man or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, this might be the part where because they're going to put him up on the horse now. Yeah, see, so he starts praying. Right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
I knew it was like, it had to be like while they were on the horse or just before.
Right. Man, I'm getting old. I just watched this movie today. See,
The irony
their
is,
hats off. See, they're taking their hats off. They're being respectful. They know that what's happening. And then so he's pleading again, and this guy in the back's like, "Nope, these guys are done."
but again, it just shows how much like certain customs and things matter, and yet
Right.
law and order, which involves sacrifice. It does involve taking your emotions and feelings out of it to allow, for some time to give everyone a fair evaluation. It's just such a great concept, like Untamed was saying earlier, of just what democracy and mob rule can look like.
So this is where he tells his son, "You're going to do it." He gives him like the little horsewhip thing.
Pull the lever, kid. Large Marge is watching.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "Okay, whip it." And they say, "Whip the horses," but the kid doesn't do it. So the other two people start swinging. And an interesting thing is they never really show like feet or anything. Like in a lot of movies, you'll show like feet. They don't do that in this. And so he doesn't do it, right? So here we go. Whip, whip. He doesn't do it. So the major just walks over and like knocks him out with his pistol butt.
And then has some guy finish the last guy off.
Well,
shoots him.
He fires 2 shots. So I don't know if he's shooting 2 people or just one. because he was like finish them, I think is what he said.
I imagine
Yeah.
it's probably the 2 younger ones.
Their necks probably didn't snap. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going for. Again, making it even more bloodthirsty. Like, you're willing to do this. Like, you're willing to go this far.
Roman asks, is that a parenting technique to use your-
knock them out like that? Yeah.
Pistol whip him.
Yeah.
It's another life lesson in this movie, Roman. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you keep, so they pick the kid up, he's still praying, and if you, hopefully it'll get to it. It just shows their shadows of their hanging bodies. Yeah, here it comes from the sunlight. See,
There
so
you
this
go.
is all you see, but it's very well done. So now they're all proud of themselves, and they're leaving, and of course this is a bigger tragedy of the whole thing. Is they get to the top of the rise here where they first came out, and it's the sheriff.
Yeah.
Like the actual sheriff.
And they're all like, we got him. We took care of business and hung him.
The guy right there in the front's like, and we hang him real good, Sheriff. Like, he's all bragging about it and stuff.
And the sheriff's like, what the hell?
What are you talking about? Kincaid's not dead. I just left him. What's wrong with you people?
Yeah.
And
I got the person who shot him.
They got the people. Yeah, they got the people that hurt Kincaid. Kincaid was shot, but he wasn't dead. They caught the people. They're in jail now. And these guys are like, what? And then he asked them, he said, I know you told me the truth. What went on here? And he's like, how many people did the hanging? And he's like, all but 7. So he takes this away. He's like, you're done. The rest of you guys are going up on charges. And,
well, he says, I hope God has mercy on you, because I sure won't.
Because I sure won't. But in the book, I think he just let the whole thing go. He didn't prosecute anybody. So, because they were just all out here. At least that's what I read, I think. But anyway, so see, look, they're all mortified because they know they're boned now. Only the 7 people that stood to the side and said, let's not do this are free and clear.
And I like how he rips the badge off the deputy.
Mm-hmm.
Guys all downtrodden. And so basically, they all know they just murdered 3 innocent people. The fact they all ride off and don't try to go back and bury him or anything is kind of weird, but or maybe they just left that part out. They just all buried him anyway. I don't know. Then they all ride back into town and go to the saloon all together, except for the maker. Yeah. Yep. And this guy is like, well, and so he goes in and locks the door. And the kid tries to go in.
And the kid's like banging on the door, like, you need to talk to me, Dad. This is nuts.
And he's like,
I want to see your face. You come talk to me face to face. Give me a little bit of respect back.
And he says major, like in a
derogatory.
And this is where he says that you just went along with it because of how, you made you feel powerful and important and control. Yeah, see, if you were talking about before, Jacob, if you go back just to frame there to the colonel's uniform, see how the buttons that were shiny before aren't?
Yeah.
So it's just a lighting. Because if you go back another one or whatever, the lower buttons are shiny too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
See? Those 2 and that one on the other side there. So
Just the way the lights hit
like you can see me like an idiot.
I just have such a hard time looking at this actor in this outfit and not thinking of the Looney Tunes Bugs Bunny with the crown type thing.
Or maybe is it Blazing Saddles?
Yosemite Sam.
Blazing Saddles, good, yeah. Got a little Yosemite Sam, yeah.
So he says that to him, like, you just wanted to be in charge. Maybe you're acting this way because you feel like you have some of the ways you're afraid that people find out you're like me or whatever. And whoa,
and
he closes the door.
Goes into his office.
He goes into his Now does he shoot?
Hear a gunshot?
Yeah,
you hear a gunshot.
You hear a gunshot.
Well, you hear a thud too.
Oh, right, okay, and I think he did it because he knows that he's going to be on trial
Yeah.
and disgraced and everything
Oh
for
yeah,
what he did.
he would get it the worst because he was
Yeah.
definitely a ringleader and all this, and
Right.
his
Yep.
legacy of being a major, and even his own son went a different direction. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a
So now
pretty
they're
heavy scene, man. You hear,
Well,
because
also
if you listen carefully, you hear that body go thud. It's pretty dark,
Yeah.
man. It's good.
Well, also, it kind of just goes, granted that I might be reading too much into that, but it also kind of shows you like he was a Confederate soldier. The Confederacy lost. So he was already technically disgraced like that way. And like his ideals, everything he's about has been just proven to him that he is wrong. His entire worldview is wrong. And he couldn't take it.
yeah.
Henry
He was
Fonda
yeah.
has to have the last word.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I love this. I love the shot here as he's reads the letter to everybody in there.
And
This
this was
is
the
back
part
to them.
that was a little kind of weird to me too. So he reads the letter. I wish I had like what it actually said. Maybe I can look it up.
Yeah, it's probably got it somewhere.
Let's see. Letter. Should have had this prep. Okay. Do they have the letter? No, that's the.
There's some pretty poignant shots like this one. It's like he's reading. He's just the voice of the man that was just hung.
Okay, I got it here.
Say, do you have it? I have it. Yeah.
Okay, well you can go ahead and read it, Pops, if you want, or I can read it. It's up to you.
My dear wife, Mr. Davies, will tell you what's happening here tonight. He's a good man. He's done everything he can for me. I suppose there are some other good men here too, only they don't seem to realize what they're doing. They're the ones I feel sorry for, because it'll be over for me in a little while, but they'll have to go on remembering for the rest of their lives. A man just naturally can't take the law in his own hands and hang people without hurting everybody in the world, because then he's just not breaking one law, but all laws. Law is a lot more than words you put in a book, or judges, lawyers, or sheriffs you hire to carry it out. It's everything people have ever found out about justice and what's right and wrong. It's the very conscience of humanity. There can't be any such thing as civilization unless people have a conscience, because if people touch God anywhere, where is it except through their conscience? And what is anybody's conscience except a little piece of conscience of all men that ever lived? I guess that's all I've got to say, except kiss the babies for me. God bless you. Your husband, Donald.
So they read that in the saloon. Everyone's got somber looks on their face. It's a great letter. It's just I don't think that that'd be what a condemned man would be writing to his wife about. It works for the story. It teaches the audience the point of the movie and puts a bow on it, and all that. If that was me writing a letter, to somebody, a significant other with kids and stuff, that's not what I'd be saying.
Yeah.
So,
and all they had to do was just add another line or two there at the bottom where he stops reading and he says, I guess I've kissed the babies and God bless you. He's got a couple more things here about his wife and his kids, stuff for her personally and stuff like that. And just kind of let it be. Like he said, the piece that mattered to the people. Right. It doesn't imply that, because he goes all the way through to your husband, Donald, is the reason we don't think there's more to the letter than that. But that's all he had to do, with maybe just kind of have a blah, blah, blah kind of moment. But yeah, it worked. Like you said, it worked for the movie. It hammers home what the whole point of the message of the movie is. So,
right.
He's got his back to them too. Copa. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so people have taken up a fund for the widow and the kids, because he said that they have relatives back in Ohio and they came out here to make it work, but she can't run the ranch by herself with the kids. So they're going to get money to like send her back, and they get about $500 together, which from what I read is about $16,000 in today's money.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but even like the disgraced deputy chipped in money, and they kind of intimate through the conversation that he's like he's not showing his face in town no more, but he still gave money, and they were like, I kicked in $25 each for us, so that's kind of
Yeah.
how it ends, with the assumption that all these people are going on trial for what happened.
It's weird that there's no real like containment of them though. You wouldn't just bug out, just go somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And his friend here says, "Where are we going now?" And he's like, "Where do you think we're going? That lady needs help, doesn't she?"
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, they're going to go out to the farm to help her
They're gonna
move.
take her the money and help her. Yeah.
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 Yep. And this is where we get the scene where they ride out of town just like they came in, and the dog runs across the scene. There it is.
Great film.
Going
Just
the
a
other
great
direction.
film.
Mm-hmm.
The end.
Mm-hmm.
So with everything going on in our world today, like people just walking into stores and walking out with stuff, and cops won't come, can't call the cops on them. They can just do whatever they want. I just don't understand how a society functions like that. How do you
It doesn't for long.
How do you run a store when people can just walk in and steal whatever they want and you can't do anything about it? Because if you do, then you're the bad guy if you try to stop them, if they get hurt somehow or whatever. So,
And
Well,
it doesn't function right. It melts down. Like we saw this with Detroit. We've been through this. This is not our first experiment with how badly this goes and we're already seeing it, right? Because you're seeing, the internet trying to guilt companies like Walgreens and others into like staying there, even though they can't enforce, shoplifters, and they can't litigate, all of the violence and stuff that's happening. So then when the companies leave, the people are going to start leaving. The taxation goes to zero. The infrastructure just keeps collapsing on itself and just becomes like a wasteland. But on scale, America just moves it around. So I don't know if on scale you'll see a collapse like that, because most places don't operate like that. Most places kind of like, well, we don't do that around here. Sorry.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
They try to, the people that are, and it's the other thing is, it's not like half the population is doing it. It's only a small number of people that are causing all the problems.
Correct.
But the policies that are in place there are making it so that this is, if you let it go long enough, people that can't move or don't want to move, this is what they're going to have to resort to.
Right.
These kinds of things. And you already see it happening. Like the guy on the subway station train, or the subway train that choked that guy out.
Yep.
If the cops had done their job, that guy wouldn't have been there in the first place to be assaulting people, to then have somebody try to step in to stop it. And
well, also, or go ahead, finish your.
And then a tragedy winds up, because the person that's trying to stop it wasn't trained to restrain. They were trained to kill. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing about the guy. It's just, he's not a professional cop. So he's put this guy in a neck hold, and he kept him there because he kept moving around. But, so now it's going to go to court, which it should. They decide whether they're going to charge him or not and all that, but there's a process to it. And hopefully, justice is done, whichever way you see that going. I have my own personal opinions on it, but that's not for this show. But what I'm saying is that those kinds of situations, or you have things happening where, people are running around just doing whatever they want, and you can't have that.
Well, it goes back to we said earlier, and I don't know how I want to define it, but it's like we all live with like a handshake agreement on how we're going to abide by certain laws, and everyone else's right to freedom. We see this a lot in some of these third world and more poverty-stricken countries, where it's like driving in your car is extremely dangerous because people just don't obey the light. They don't obey traffic laws. Like you could just get killed very easily if you're used to Americans who are following certain rules. Where that there, it's like they don't do that. And I think that you're right that we're going to see at least for the foreseeable future, because we're also seeing, and you didn't touch on this, was that local attorney generals, the smaller you go down, the more we're seeing it, right? So certain cities are not enforcing criminal, even though they get arrested, we just don't let them go. I actually wrote a story. One of the times I actually kind of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this website stuff because this got ugly. They turned this on me. Wrote about a guy who was part of like blockading a pretty big highway or road here in town. This is in the summer of love. Got himself arrested, went downtown. They just refused, even though he was arrested, they told him he wasn't going to prosecute anything. And he was arrested later at basically what was a riot on a different side of town. So I had covered this big long thing and kind of got doxxed for it. Kind of like, oh, they turned this all on me. And I'm like, oh, wow, this can get ugly really quickly. This is different. Haven't seen this happen before.
Mob mentality.
So, yeah, very much so. And it was like, it again, we're handshake agreements, right? And it's like, what do you really want mob? Do you really want, and I think that it always sounds great when they're in the mob. Doesn't sound so great when they're on the receiving end. And I wrote about this. I did a video on this, which dropped today, because we have this makeup artist that did Ursula, and he's a little upset that they turned on him. And it's like, well, he's not gay enough. And I'm like, oh, well, guess what? Welcome to the party, my friend. Yeah. Well, welcome to my party.
They're starting to eat themselves alive. Like, earlier, like in Portland, the last Walmart is closing down, and people are like, how could Walmart do that? Well, because people are stealing their stuff, and Walmart is a business. They're not going to let people just steal their stuff and stay in the town. And also, like, I saw another video about like a lot of the previous LGBT, like without the T part of the community, is like, we are not for this. Like, I want to be gay. I want to be, like whatever, and be left alone. Like, I'm not associated with these other activists that are just trying to shove this down your throat. I just want to be gay and live my life. And so like they're just eating themselves alive just from all of this mob mentality, and just, it's rough.
Right. So the lessons that
you think of all the communist revolutions and the Nazis come to power. They started, after they came to power, they started eating their own. They started having to watch their own backs because they were taking each other out.
Yeah, and that's why the lessons of this movie are important. I was sitting there watching this, and I was thinking, this should be like mandatory watching for every like
big government class.
Yeah, government class, or what was it called?
12 Angry Men.
Civil Studies.
In this movie, there's probably about 3 or 4 others.
Yep.
They should be part of like a government class.
Yeah,
they should be part of a government class, and give people context. I mean, I think that you were touching on some of these elements early on, and it's like, listen, you're going out in the world, you're running around campus, and you're telling people, oh, the women and blacks and how they represent. Like, the film is very, very it's decidedly clear on how it wanted to depict certain characters and roles. You can't deny that. Like, it's very clear what Sparks represents. It's very clear what Large Marge, I don't have no idea what her real name is in this film. Like, it's just, and you don't get to rewrite that. You just don't. And we just continue to say no. And I'm glad that I see moments where people do push back. And I'm hopeful that we'll just see more of that. Yeah.
Right.
We've been through this before. Like, I hate to be on a soapbox joker, but I went through this with Target before, because Target, when I was writing for this website, we were covering bathroom incidents. That's all I'm going to call it. There were about 6 in the course of about 2 to 3 months, and some were Walgreens and Target. And we had an incident here locally, and it wasn't fortunately where my wife and my daughter were, but they kind of like, so this was like looking in the mirror, where a lady had, the dude comes out of the ladies' room, and she complained, and they said we were not allowed to say anything. And my wife's like, I can't be responsible for my little girls going to the bathroom of these stores if they're not going to police what the rules are.
Yeah.
So we've never gone to Target again. We just have never gone to Target again. We tried to give them a chance after they like purged some of their executives and whatever. And it's just like, well, they didn't really reverse the policies, though. They don't really want to change course. They just want to let it just kind of be. And I'm like, I don't have desire to work with places and give them my money. I can just get my stuff out.
me too.
There are
You know
plenty
what?
of other things to do.
I've never shopped at Target, but this sure didn't want to make me shop at Target.
I live in Walmart country, so
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah, me
tough
too.
if you live in a small town where
HEB
there's only
country,
like
actually.
one store. You know, you don't really have any options because a lot of these bigger box stores have pushed all the little mom and pop stuff out. So
Yeah,
you either have that or you got a 2-hour drive to somewhere else, and it's just not. You know, sometimes you're just kind of stuck with it. But the other thing is in a lot of these little towns, you're not going to have these people that want like 3 bathrooms and stuff.
mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
It's just not going to, you know what I mean? Because the percentage of people that actually want that stuff is small. It's just they're very vocal about it.
yeah,
Which,
Yep.
hey, you
Vocal
know,
minority.
That's true.
I think there's a middle ground where everybody can get what they want. That's the other thing that I kind of don't like is that people act like it's all or nothing. It's either and or we can only do this one thing at a time, and that's not the case. A lot of times you can just do things all at the same time. You know, like drill for oil and go green, right? You just got to
yeah,
do it smartly in a correct way.
Mhm.
People, you know, people don't think in those terms. So anyway, I enjoyed
yeah.
watching this movie and talking about it.
Me too.
Appreciate you having me on. A great panel
Yeah,
with
it's a great
Pops,
time.
Yeah.
Mando, and the chat uh, and everything. So
Yeah,
hopefully they had a
the
good time.
chat always brings some good comments.
Yeah, trying to. I just wish that the copyrights were a little laxer, so you could actually like show something with sound and then pause
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
talk about it, instead of having to talk about what happened in the movie with no sound and it's basically frame by frame. So it makes it a little hard for the audience to really kind of understand what's going on.
yeah,
Hopefully, we did a good job of doing that, but I just wish that you'd be able to, you know what I mean, like run like a 15 or 20 second or 30-second part of it. We can stop and talk about it. I think it'd be
You're
a lot.
supposed to be able to do that as far as copyright laws and stuff are concerned. Like you are supposed to be able to watch a segment, stop, talk about it, watch more, stop, talk about it. That's how it's supposed to be done.
Right. Well,
But
people
YouTube
are
is
not
stupid.
supposed to be able to walk into a Lululemon's and steal $100,000
yeah.
worth
Right,
of stuff and
right.
run out, and nobody
And
stop
too,
them
you
either.
know,
Yeah.
we want. I want people to go watch these movies. I want
Mhm.
them to go, spend $3 or $4 and watch this movie. It's a great
They're
movie.
Some of these things
It's
that
very
we're talking about
thought-provoking
at times
and
are some of these that you've done are on YouTube for free or Tubi and places like that. So they don't have to pay their own
yeah,
money. They can just enjoy these things. Like I know we saw 12 Angry Men, and when we did that one, it was actually on Tubi for free. Like you
yeah,
didn't have to pay. You just go over there and watch it, guys.
As a matter of
So
fact, this movie, I saw it today. I went to YouTube, I typed in Oxbow Incident, and I was going to see if there were like synopsis clips or something, or like little sections, because that's what I had to do with the Thing movie. But it was the full movie, start to finish, for free, no ads, just on there.
kick
And
him
yeah.
out, Jacob. He doesn't own the thing. Kick him out right now.
hey, it was on
You're in
YouTube. I
timeout,
mean,
Shieldwall.
yeah.
The
But-
thing. You need to own the thing. Something's wrong.
Projection.
No.
you're out
The
of the
1951 movie. The
the
that
thing
one.
from space. Okay.
Yeah, the thing from
outer
space.
space.
Yeah.
The thing from outer
So
space.
that's
Okay.
what I
The
had.
original 51 movie,
Right.
not the 1982 film.
No.
Okay.
No, the 80. No, I got the 82 one. It's the.
Okay, just making
do
sure. I thought
not-
that. Yeah.
Do not, and Roman, if he's still in the chat, will back me up on this. I do not have the 2011 one.
Yeah.
I don't even know
Why
what
would
you're
you have the
talking about.
2011 one?
As much as I
Who
teased him
cares?
about that, we were teasing him about that on that stream. Yeah, no, thank you.
I don't even know what that is. I don't even know idea what
It's
it is.
a-
You know,
Yeah,
it's
I
nothing.
have this clip for
I'm being facetious.
I have this clip for ejecting people.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
And but yeah, and what's crazy, and I think maybe Pops is feeling this too, for me anyway, is so like 1997 doesn't really it's a long time ago, but it doesn't feel that long ago to me just because I'm old. So when people say I have no idea what movie you're talking about and it came out in 97, I'm like, what in the world? So if the farther you go back, the more that young people haven't seen these movies,
Yeah.
haven't been
Agreed.
exposed to them. And some of us were lucky to have parents or great grandparents that were really into this stuff and exposed us to it,
Yeah.
to where, and the values and all those kinds of things. Because a lot of these movies still, yeah, there's Roman 2011. No, a lot of these movies are still relevant. The lessons they teach are poignant, and that goes with literature too. Reading something from the Enlightened Age, the 1700s, if you can get past the way the language is structured, is very profound, and it still works today. I mean,
Yeah.
look, going back and
And
reading
it,
Sun Tzu, The Art of War. That was
you can't,
mandatory reading for a lot of professional development that I did in the military. Like you had to read
Plato's
that.
Republic.
You had to read, yes, Plato's Republic. You had to read von Clausewitz, all those kinds of things. And if you don't know who that is, that's a German guy that wrote about war. That was the actual
yeah.
name of the book, is called On War. And it has all these things about the nature of war and all this stuff. And it still holds true today, even though we have,
Yeah.
basically spaceships. It's
Yeah.
still functionally the same. Same with the Art of War.
I mean, all these things, it not just gives you a window into that time, but it gives you insight into now.
Right.
What?
Because some of human nature doesn't change. Some reality doesn't change. Physics don't change. At least not yet anyway.
Yeah.
And how things are. And as advanced as we become, we're still basically monkeys. So
Well, I feel like the more advanced that we become, the more reliant on technology we are, which means I feel like on some level we are regressing as far as our cognitive thoughts. Like it's just like, oh, I don't remember how to spell that thing. Oh, I don't remember how to calculate that thing. I don't remember what this word means or anything like that. We're not forced to retain information anymore. We're just
that's because there's so much more of it out there. Go on, see how many articles are on Wikipedia right now. It's like 1 billion or something. How are you expected to even? I mean, so we have more access to information than we've ever had, but that also floods us with so much information. It's like flying a fighter jet. There's so much going on. If you're trying to like shoot somebody down in dogfight, you can't look at everything. That's why you have the heads-up display. And you have a master caution light that comes on. It just tells you, hey, something's wrong. And then you got to look down at your panel to see exactly what the malfunction is. So you have to have these cues that allow you to, like, a lot of stuff has to be automatic, and the system has to do it for you, because a human can just not process that much information effectively fast enough.
And we have people being conditioned into watching 30-second clips. They don't have time to sit down and watch a movie,
or have that tactile feeling of getting a comic book or a book and opening it up, or a map. Like kids these days don't know the joy of having to get a giant map out of the glove box, shake that sucker open,
that's great.
the window down, and it's flapping in the wind, and you're trying to figure out where you're going, and you got it upside down, and but that map reading skill. And
so I just wanted to touch on the fact that it's so important to Jacob just keep doing what you're doing and doing these kind of movies and things like that. I do mine on Thursdays. I do some sort of throwback Thursday movie, some sort of look at something. And I was inspired by my coworker because I don't know what happened in Florida. We were shut down for some reason. I don't know what happened. A hurricane most likely, but we ended up watching like 5 movies in like 3 days. And my wife's like, just make videos, do like you used to do. And I mentioned something to her about this coworker, and she had never have never heard of the Towering Inferno. And I'm like, well, I guess there it is. There's my target audience. There's the target audience. Right? It's like, how you do that. And I think this is another one of those movies. First off, it's in black and white, right? We are having an uphill battle against a generation of people that don't want to even remotely consider things that are black and white. And we just put the video. We just do it. We just do what we do. We talk about it. We share things that are positive. The balance, got to clean the palate. You can't get caught up with the negativity. Sure, it's out there. We need to be honest and be people of integrity and, be who you are. But, at the same time, we got to try to show good stuff too. I mean, earlier tonight, we did King Kong 33. And I got to be honest, guys, I watched this movie twice in the last 3 days, and it just knocks my sock off, man. I tell you what, I just kind of let myself get immersed in with that music and Fay Ray's performance, and just like, man, this movie is so good. Holy cow, it's so good.
And that last scene on top of the Empire State Building.
Well, you know what? There's a scene I would challenge you to go back and look at. So there's a scene where Kong is fighting the snake-like eel-looking thing. And Fay Ray's character Anne is in the background up on like a little ledge that Kong left her, and Jack, who's trying to save her, is in the foreground. So imagine trying to put this all together with using two different characters in a foreground and a background, and the stop motion is in the middle. The filmmaking genius that it took to come up with a way to pull that off 90 years ago.
Yeah.
No wonder I'm a grouchy old man yelling at the clouds over the incompetence.
That was the art form of the day, too.
I know, incredible. It was incredible. I looked at that shot. I bet I rewound that like 5 times just watching this shot. Going, okay, so they had to film this piece, use the mini screen, play it back against this piece. Like, wow, this is beautiful. That's it. That's how I am. I'm such a nerd. Nerd.
I loved watching the old. What is it? Sinbad.
Harryhausen
fighting the Cyclops and
Jason.
Those were so badass when I was a kid. I remember watching those on like PBS or whatever. I was so hyped for those. They were awesome. The skeletons at the thing, and then you had Medusa.
The skeletons.
Man. And then what was it? The 1980 Clash of Titans. That one was really good because that was one of Harryhausen's last movies that he did. And then he had that trash remake one. That thing was garbage.
Yeah.
Sam Worthington.
Yeah, I mean he was fine in it, but the rest of it was just kind of eh. But the other one with Harry Hamlin, that was much better. Plus the princess in there was way hotter.
Yes, indeed. Indeed, the 80s.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember.
Well, guys, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I remember I was living in Japan, and I was on base because it was a military installation, and it came to the base theater, and I begged my mom to let me go see it. And I was just old enough to get in. And so she took me and my brother, and we went, and it was awesome. It was great.
That was a turning point film for me because right after that was when I was allowed to start going by myself. So you just dump us off and leave us.
Yeah,
watching these movies by myself. But I saw Clash of the Titans and First Blood with some other kid. We were left in the back during like a bridal party. Like, how just like back then you didn't know what to do with your kid. You had to take him.
Yeah.
Like, we were boys, so we had to be by ourselves. So we were back there watching this, and he was all into First Blood, and I'm like, man, that Clash of the Titans movies is something special. He's like, yeah, but First Blood. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. It's good. I like it. But
you're talking about on VHS or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
That's how I saw First Blood, all the R movies and stuff.
Oh, yeah. The R movies. Yeah, I wasn't allowed to see an R movie for a minute. And I think the grandma took me the first couple of those or whatever. I was trying to debate that, which was my first one. And I know Trading Places for sure was in the theater because she covered my eyes during the Jamie Lee scene or whatever.
I'm trying to think of what the...
See, at least y'all's parents care, bruh. I got to watch Deep Blue Sea when I was 6. I got to see Jaws when I was 10.
Well, Jaws was a different story because my aunt was my babysitter. And she'd just take me to the dollar theater. So I was 5 to 6, and I was not supposed to be in there watching Jaws. I've been told this story a million times because I was kicking, screaming, crying about getting in a bathtub, and nobody knew why.
No.
So my aunt finally got busted for taking me all these R-rated movies and stuff because,
I also saw Aaron Brockovich when I was 11. was one of my favorite movies. And I'm like, she has a lot of cleavage. And my grandma's like, yes, don't copy her. But I'm like, but I really like this movie. She's like, don't do it. I'm like, but I want to be a lawyer now. She's like, don't do it.
Oh, Gord King says they saw RoboCop when they were 5.
Wow, that's pretty
Wow,
hardcore. Man.
yeah, because Jaws is scary, but it's not like RoboCop.
Well, it was disturbing. Yeah, it wasn't the violence of
and
RoboCop.
Yeah, I think Deep Blue Sea is actually more worse than Jaws in my opinion.
I mean,
Is
you
that the one
take
with,
RoboCop. It's a fun movie. It's almost comical some points. You know, like where the robot goes crazy and kills that guy, and the boss is like, "I'm very disappointed." It's like, what?
Yeah. But wait, Deep Blue Sea is the one with Samuel L. Jackson, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jaws is better.
Yeah, it is.
Just simply for the monologue that they have in the.
It is better, but like as far as like fear factor, I think Deep Blue Sea has a lot more horror elements than Jaws, in my opinion.
Well,
you know why?
I saw it when I was older, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, Jaws works for me because the reason is because the shark didn't work. It just messes with our heads more, especially when you see it as a child. It's like, oh my god, it's like it was all in your head. Like it was like, thank God. 'Cause I actually have had the thesis like, does Spielberg have a career if the shark had worked? Like I'm not sure that movie is even remotely effective if that shark had actually worked.
That movie would have gone down with the giant crocodile movie.
Yeah.
You know why I like
the period of time where I was afraid to like even go into the bathroom because I'm like, it's water. Something's gonna eat me.
That was me, man. That was
watching Tremors
by that movie.
Watching Tremors when you're a kid and you don't want to go outside, get on the ground.
Oh yeah, I remember Tremors.
Tremors, yes.
The first one was really good.
Yeah, the first. The second one's not too bad, but
I like watching Jaws because now, not for the actual thing, it's to look at all the styles and how the cars and stuff work. I like watching movies now to see like how. That's why I like watching older movies. Is you look at like the fashion and the architecture and the cars and the technology and all the stuff that they had, and you're like, wow, they had telephones back then and radios, and so what really
Shieldwall, you're gonna love the movie Air. It's like it's better than average movie, but you're really gonna love the nostalgia, man. Talk about the 80s for you, bro. Oh my gosh, he beautifully took us back to the time of the Jordan era. Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Oh yeah. That's the
It's about the shoe. It's about the shoe.
Right. Yeah, and just, but I started to realize what really sets us apart from like my parents' era to now, and is the phone technology and the computer technology. If you were to take all that stuff away, cars are pretty much cars still. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Airplanes are airplanes. Telephones are telephones, like the old kind. TV is TV. You got cable, but you could take somebody from like the 50s and show them today, and without the computers and the internet and stuff, and they would be like, oh, okay, I understand this stuff. I know what a phone is. I can pick it like an actual landline and use it.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. They wouldn't be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like turning on a TV. Of course, there'd be way more channels and whatever. It's when you start getting into like computers and internet and stuff, that's when they'd really have their mind boggled. But watching an airplane fly, leaving a contrail over your house, that they'd be like, okay, cool, I know what that is.
Unless it was during the Cold War, then they'd be like,
well, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's a UFO or something. But so a lot of things have changed, but a lot of things haven't changed. Like they could still go to McDonald's. You can still go to McDonald's now. So it's kind of interesting.
Drive-thrus.
Yeah.
So guys, it's been a good discussion about this movie.
Truly.
Love it.
Agreed.
And a whole bunch
Killed
of
all
stuff.
of you in chat.
Yeah.
Everyone make a point of sharing out Jacob's channel so we can he's criminally undersubbed.
Thank you, Pops.
There are a lot of channels out there like that.
Yes.
That are really good.
Yeah.
That have, they just, I don't know, just need to get more.
thank you guys.
Mando too. Mando's got a good channel too, and Pops.
Absolutely.
Yep.
How many subs am I at?
Anybody have anything they want to shout out?
On Thursday, I'm going to be on with Roman. We're going to do another just general news kind of pop talk thing. Free range, that's what it's called. Except this
Yeah.
time now had cows on it for some reason.
I think I'm going to be on that too. So.
Yeah. So those are always fun. We get a lot of discussions and stuff. And yeah, I think that's it for now.
Okay.
And
Pops.
I'm always doing stuff, bro. Every day there's something usually. Let's see. Thursday will be Throwback Thursday. I don't. Tomorrow's comic book day, and I still haven't finished my video, so I don't know what we're gonna have tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Friday's usually miscellaneous. Saturday morning cartoons. I haven't recorded my Sunday show yet, so yeah, it's kind of hodgepodge stuff. I'm still recovering from the Star Wars thing. If you guys didn't see any of this Star Wars, I was doing something pretty much all day.
Yeah, that was.
So
I did. I was just I got busy later on, so I couldn't like keep up with all the premieres and lives and stuff.
Yeah.
You know? So
yeah, but if you go back and watch, if nothing else, I can't thank Troy Pacelli enough, because I think the holiday special one is probably my favorite, because a lot of people just don't have no familiarity with the Star Wars special, and it seemed like it was the one that just was the most fun and smooth. We derailed into like the Sears toy catalog part, which I thought was great. So yeah, that was probably my favorite. But yeah, so things are a little discombobulated this week. But listen, I'm blessed beyond it than I deserve. So yeah, thanks for even having me back, Jacob. It's cool, man.
Yeah, always a pleasure to have you on. Mando, what do you have coming?
So on YouTube, this Saturday morning, we're going to be having Literary Souls. I will be doing the third installment of the Halo book series. That's kind of what I'm doing so far. Next Saturday, I will be having a panel of some amazing people talking about the Chronicles of Narnia. And then Sunday, my friend Wicked Virtue and I have a podcast we do. It's called Unplugged with Wicked and Mando at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on Sunday. And then for the most part this week, I stream a lot on Twitch. This week is going to be a little crazy because it's Memorial. Like, even though Memorial Day was already over the weekend, me and some friends are still going to get together throughout the week and do some barbecues and stuff. So my streaming schedule, as far as Twitch is concerned, is going to be a little wonky. But other than that, like, yeah, I try and stay a busy bee and be on lots of people's channels and stuff when possible. I think actually I'm going to be on Miss Martin Muse's channel pretty soon, so that's going to be exciting.
Cool. That'll be fun.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, congratulations, Gord King.
Congrats,
500
Gord.
subs. Nice.
It's awesome, bro.
And me, I'm going to be on Roman's stream Thursday, and next week is the first Tuesday of the month is Twilight Zone Tuesday. So we're going to do 2 episodes of Twilight Zone, episodes 7 and 8 of season 1. That'll be fun. 2 of my favorites.
Awesome. Yeah, those have been good streams. You know, again, more exposure to awesome old stuff that's well written.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I'm not sure when, but I will be starting a new show called All in the Mix, and it's just going to be a general discussion show. I'm not sure when or what day, but be looking out for that. So that'll be fun.
When are you starting your photo stream, your photo channel?
That's going to be in that show.
Okay.
All in the Mix.
Awesome.
It's going to.
Yeah. Because if nobody's seen his photos that he takes of like birds and flowers and stuff, they're awesome.
Yeah, and go check out Miss Martin's Muse's video. I was on her show this last Saturday.
Oh yeah, that's
I
great.
went over some of my photographs, so check that out too.
Yeah,
but
they're really good.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks to everybody in the chat that came to hang out with us. Thanks for the panelists for coming on. Glad y'all could come on.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime. Yeah. This is always a good time.
And I'll see everybody next week for the Twilight Zone. And be careful. Those raccoons, they're nasty. They'll get you.
Yeah. That was after he fixed your internet, right?
So everybody have a good week, and we'll see y'all.
Toodles.